Hello, everyone. This is StarJump Grim doing a mic check. I have VMXEO and Ender with me. Say hello, guys. Perfect. Perfect.
Hello.
Everyone in chat, can you hear our voices okay? Are we coming through loud and clear? Let us know if we are 5x5.
It went so well.
Went very well, very well. Solomon says loud and clear. First one to chime in. Thank you, Solomon. All right, everyone. We're going to kick off the show intro, and then we will be on. Thanks, everybody. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to StarJump Station. I am your host, StarJump Grim. Along with me tonight is my co-host for the evening, StarJump Ender. Say hello, Ender. How are you?
Hello, Ender. I'm well.
Yeah, well said. You screwed up our sound test, but I'll let it go. And then, of course, we have my other co-host tonight, VMXEO. VM, how are you doing tonight? Thank you for that follow.
Here.
You're here. That's good.
I'm here. Beyond that, I can't guarantee anything.
Yes. Everyone, hopefully the audio is all good for all three of us tonight. It's been a while since all three of us have been on a show, so hopefully our levels are mostly correct. If they're a little bit off, just kind of deal with it, I guess. Got a lot of people in chat. Thank you all for showing up and hanging out with us tonight. Got a good crowd on YouTube, good crowd on Twitch. We're going to talk about a few things today. Obviously, we have a few front of show topics to discuss, and then we're going to jump right into the CitizenCon Day 2 panels. You're probably wondering why the hell is StarJump so late on covering Day 2 when all the other content creators have covered it to death by now. That's because I'm still recovering from being sick. My voice is a little strained, and I decided not to do coverage of Day 2 on Day 2 in lieu of being able to sit with the information a bit. And I'm actually glad we did because we got some new context to some of the information and cover it now and just be fashionably late, have a little bit of that James Dean coolness factor to our coverage and just be a little bit fashionably late. For everyone in chat, though, thanks for hanging out again. Really appreciate it. Let's go back to the co-host real quick. I'm going to start with VM on this one. VM, what have you been up to lately? It's been a while since everyone's seen you.
Oh, man. Lots of great stuff in the works. Hopefully have a few project reveals in a couple weeks.
Very nice.
We
remind
also
everybody who you're working for.
All right. So we are doing some work with JRDF. We've got a number of projects in the works, including the Saber Raven. So if you are a Saber Raven fan and would love a 1-to-100 kit model, come check out our website. They should be available again soon. I think we're just getting everything storefront resituated after CitizenCon. But yeah, lots of great stuff to show off and a few more surprises in the works. So stay tuned. Cool.
Well, I think we previewed the Saber Raven on the last, maybe it was the last time I had you on, or a solo stream I did or something. I think I previewed it. You'd sent me some of the stuff. Really cool though. Obviously, people are pretty excited about that. And since then, there's been two Saber Raven variants that have been released into the game: the Peregrine and the Firebird. So pretty exciting if you're a fan of that chassis, I guess. Ender, what have you been up to, bud?
Working and more working. And I did some editing work this week, so I'm getting into that for a change, which is kind of nice.
Gotcha. Yeah. You did a little stream today. How was Star Citizen?
It was rough.
Yeah, the game's in degraded performance right now.
But honestly, I think having it be rough is okay by me, so long as I see some progress on it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Next update, if it's not quite as bad, I'm happy. So.
Yep. Again, I'm less. I've said this multiple times. I'm less concerned about them, even though most people don't agree with this. I'm less concerned with there being constant uptime in the game and more concerned with progress being made towards 1.0, 4.0, 1.0, all those milestones. I've said this before. I do not back this game for what it currently is. If I was backing the game for what it currently is, I definitely wouldn't have backed as much as I have. I'm backing the game for what I hope it will be. So I would like them to get down that road further. So I'm okay with certain patches being up and down as long as progress is made. So that's a great point, Ender. All right, everybody, we're going to jump in. We have a lot to cover. If you haven't, subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that if you don't mind. If you haven't followed me on Twitch, please give me a follow. Give Ender a follow. Come hang out at our Discord, all that good stuff. Follow our Twitter. We post a lot of the StarJump stuff on Twitter. All like new releases or when we add ships to Fleet Viewer, all that kind of good stuff. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. The very first thing I want to cover, I'm going to switch over here to our other setup. Bear with me. Here we go. First thing I wanted to talk about real quick, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this because I'm sure we'll cover this in more detail in a stream closer to the event. But we do have IAE approaching. Should be November 22nd through December 5th this year. It'll be held at New Babbage and Microtech. This is the so-called day schedule here. I'm not 100% sure this is correct, but this is what all the sources are saying. So day 1, Crusader Tumbril, then Aegis, then the Alien Manufacturers, day 4, Origin, day 5, RSI, day 6, Argo, Senal, and Grey Cat and Kruger. Day 7, Drake, day 8, Misk and Mirai, and day 9, Anvil. The only thing I thought that was kind of worth talking about in regards to this schedule is the last day there with Anvil on the last day. Typically, we've seen the last day manufacturer be the reveal of a concept ship. It's not, I don't know if that's always the case, but I think, what was it, the year before it was Ironclad, if I'm not mistaken. Someone could maybe correct me on that. But we know that we're probably getting the medical terrapin for IAE. I think that's all been confirmed. So that would release on day 9. But what are your guys' thoughts on a possible Anvil concept ship being announced on that day? Do you think it's pretty likely?
So anything's possible.
Yeah.
If anything is announced, I think it would probably be... You know what? Anvil doesn't have a starter ship.
Is the C8 considered a starter? The Pisces, the C8 Pisces?
You can get a starter pack with the Pisces.
Yeah,
that's right. True. There is a starter pack. Yeah.
Yeah, the F7C variants is definitely going to happen. Bingo. But I think if anything, it would be.
That's actually a good point.
Maybe the Cap ship. Right?
But you know what? That's actually a good point. Bingo brings up those F7 variants. So the F7 variants with the Terrapin medical variant, that means Anvil Day is going to have quite a few flyables probably. if the F7s are ready. I'm not sure if those are ready for release, but regardless, there's going to be
I
a
could see it being
few.
ready.
You know,
I could see that.
they could sell those at the concept, like as a concept reveal, with them scheduled to be released early next year. I know that they came up in the ship presentation, and we'll talk more about that later, but that's a possibility as well. But like you said, Ender, it could be a capital reveal or a bigger ship
Now,
reveal. I don't know.
with all the
Do you think?
flyyables, do you think they would reveal something? I mean, it's a lot of flyyables for
I
that
don't know.
day.
They may not.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm leaning towards the Polaris just overshadowing everything.
Yeah.
The rest of the show.
Thank you, Truther.
Which is
Appreciate
possible.
it. Sent the javelin.
Which is possible.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, RSI is day 5, kind of right in the middle, although we may get the Polaris in testing before that. It's very possible. But yeah, the Polaris is going to overshadow everything. I mean, it's one of the biggest ships they've released in a long time. King, thank you very much. Sending the javelin overhead again. So yeah, I mean, I'm unsure. I'll be honest with you. I don't personally think there's some big anvil capital waiting in the wings like a lot of people do. I think that was the Liberator. If you listen to how John Crew talks about ships now, he'll refer to capital ships in regards to ships that aren't quite capitals technically, but what he's doing is he's just saying that in terms of like it's a big ship, you know what I mean? And you kind of see quite a bit that any ship over 100 meters sometimes gets labeled with the capital ship tag. It happened with the Liberator, it happened with the Odyssey. John Crew just referred to the Perseus as the next RSI capital going into development. The Perseus is only like 100 someone check me on it. I think it's 100 or 110 meters long. It's actually not even longer. The Hammerhead's longer than the Perseus. So
that website where you can look at ships.
I think it's called STARJUMP Fleets or something. I don't know. I forget the name of it.
100 meters on the dot.
Yeah. But regardless, I think the Liberator was that previously mentioned anvil cap. I could be wrong here. By the way, I'm completely speculating. I don't have any insider information.
I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I'm excited for one day on there, and that is day 1. Because my hope is that we finally get to see something about the Intrepid and maybe get a price on it.
I think it's flight ready.
And purchase it.
I mean, I think the Intrepid is guaranteed flight ready.
It looked flight ready.
Yeah.
So
I think it's guaranteed flight ready. I wouldn't worry about that. And when we get to the ship panel, we're gonna talk more about those. But to wrap this one up, everyone, this is the supposed IAE schedule. Again, it's coming up quick, November 22nd. So we do not have long. We're less than a month away from IAE. So again, lots of info coming on that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next, our first panel, and that is going to be called Crafting Your Home. I'm going to hit play over in this window. We'll let the video play, but essentially, and this is kind of an open discussion. If you have a question or comment, feel free to put it in brackets. We'll try to catch it. We might miss it, but the panel on crafting and building to me was pretty fascinating. It was really sort of about 2 major things, right? Input and output. And this was hinted at by Todd Pappy last year at CitizenCon. It's ultimately about bringing resources in, whether that's construction materials, RMC, whatever those materials are, bringing them in at certain quality levels, and then that's your input, and then your output will be getting something out that is that has some sort of parity to the quality level of input items you put in. So weapons, bases, all that stuff filter. It's all part of the same thing. Base building and crafting are actually not different from one another. They're just two different ways of naming something. But I guess just from a blanket thing, while the panel's playing over here, just from a blanket kind of your first reaction after watching the panel, Ender, what's your kind of just overarching thoughts on what you saw in terms of CIG's approach to base building?
Perfect. I'm very happy with it. Their initial idea was a little strange to me, and I didn't see how it could work easily. But this more gamified version, I think it works better. I think the UI is going to work a lot better for it. And I like the way it still will take time. You know what I mean? If I want to craft a small building, it's going to take a day or so. If I want to craft a large one, it might take a week.
Are you talking
But
when you say and when you say gamified? Are you talking about the fact that it kind of goes into like the top-down
yeah,
RTS
yeah,
type view?
yeah,
You get your
absolutely.
hologram buildings, kind of like how you would see in like what's that game we play? The Scum, yeah, stuff like that, right? Get you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
reminded
I
me
like
very.
that. Go ahead, B.
Yeah, I was going to say it reminded me very much of a number of survival games out there. No Man's Sky would be an example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
yep.
approachable
No Man's
approach
Sky.
to base building. It just reads, but it's also very Star Citizen. It doesn't feel out of place. So
Exactly. I like the way they've handled this. I think it's a great little way to make it a game while also trying to make it realistic in the universe that you've got there.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
good on them.
yeah, I think that it's well, the thing that I think they're doing that is really great is that it the idea of base building back in the old days, like a couple years ago when we were talking about base building Star Citizen. I'll be honest with you, I always thought of it from a standpoint of building your home because they always referred to it like that. You're going to build your home, your outpost, right? But where I see base building, and we'll get to crafting here in a second, but the way I think of base building moving forward is that it's really about building. It's almost like it's more about filling out your profession loop, right? Your gameplay loop, in that you can build these things that are, I don't want to call them add-ons, but they're big parts of your overall profession loop, right? So if you're a miner, you can build a mining outpost, right? Or maybe you build a refinery outpost, right, to refine all the ore you're mining. You can build, then requisite buildings and structures to support the ferrying of that refined material to other places to sell, or you can build a shop. So for me, the whole base building thing sort of turned into like the name of this panel is crafting your home, but for me it turned into like building your gameplay loop, right? That's more what it was about to me. You're sort of creating your own gameplay loop, out of the different modules they're giving you.
Yeah.
So, I guess another way of saying that is like if you wanted to build a gameplay loop that was centered around refining and shipping, like exporting, you could build a little base that really supports refinery gameplay and transport cargo gameplay, right? You could build an outpost that's tailor made to that. VM, what was your reaction to the crafting your own home presentation?
in addition to, I think what we mentioned earlier, that being a very approachable um, gameplay
Yeah.
for base building. But I think more importantly, and this is something that really hit home on day 2, this starts giving us a whole motivation for these game loops. So if, we can do cargo writing right now, but you can earn credits and you can earn ships to do more, but this will be a goal, something you can really will want to sink your time into, whether it's cargo running or making that money bounty hunting or whatever you're doing in game to support things like base building, to have your own home. So that really makes it much more cozy and lived in. It gives you much more motivation to continue playing on a regular basis versus right now, you might just log in to see what's new.
Yeah.
So I think this is an important step for that.
McD asks a good question here. Let me pose this question to you guys because I have been wondering about this, but I didn't know totally how to answer it. McD asks question: how do you think crafting, and I'm sure he means base building here too, how do you think base building will work across multiple game sections? Meaning, if you try to build a structure that's going to take 17 hours to build and you need to log out of the game at some point, does that build timer keep running even with you logged out?
I think it will, so long as you've got the materials that are necessary there.
Mm-hmm.
It'll keep. Now, when the materials run out, if that were to happen, I think that it would pause. Grim, there's a game, I can't think of it right now, but this is exactly how it works. When you're building something, it's slowly pulling items over to that build. You and I have played it, and I don't remember what it is now, but
Oh
it
yeah,
slowly pulled items over, and then once the items ran out, it stops building and halts
correct.
until
Yeah,
you refill it. And I think that's what you're looking at here. Is it'll be a situation of, if you've got the items that it needs, it's going to keep pulling them, and it's going to take that 17 hours to build, whether you're on or not. Because
right.
if you
Let's
think, you have to be able
like
to
Citizen
meet,
Ninja says, like a refinery job. Exactly. It's going to be like when you
exactly.
submit a refinery job. So it's building off the persistent stuff that they've got running. Um, I do think that's something that a lot of people have questions about, though, specifically because we're still. I think people that play Star Citizen in its current alpha state, we're still not used to the idea of anything being really permanent at all.
Right.
You know, which is why base building is going to be kind of a rough test while the game is still in a non persistent stable state.
Yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
know, and something
Um,
I personally hope they do there. I don't know how you guys think about this, but I actually hope that they ease up on, for example, some of the numbers required to build things in the first testing releases, so that we could just build them faster to see if
yeah.
it's working. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Same thing when they do eventually bring out things like building a space station. If a space station takes a month to build, for example, speed that up to like 3 days so that we can actually just test to see if all the systems are running. You know what I mean? We
Exactly.
understand that when the game goes live, just like ship claim timers, those times are going to increase. But let's get that testing under our belts.
So we were talking about this a little pre-show, but we do understand that, you, me, VMXEO,
Yeah.
most of our viewers. But there are those out there who will get used to those times, and they
Yeah.
will go, "Well, why the fuck is it taking me a month now to build shit that it took me a day?" People are going to get used to it, and they're going to get angry about it, and it's going to be
Yeah.
a whole thing if they're not careful on how they handle that.
Right. Right. Thank
So
you,
I
Mister
think
6%.
Mr. 6%, what a name.
I mean,
Um,
well, let me ask you this. Let's we're watching here. Since we're kind of on this piece of video, what is your guys' initial thought on the extra small building hover trolley thing here? Let's see if I can bring it back up. What was your guys' thoughts on that? You can kind of see it here in frame. So this was originally shown to us in last year's CitizenCon panel discussion by Todd Pappy, and this specifically was kind of a smaller hover trolley. Obviously, it's become a little bigger now. What are you guys' thoughts on this as the kind of extra small gateway to base building? This little vehicle thing, push behind cart. Thoughts on that?
B, what do you think?
I appreciate being small. I think they
Yeah.
mentioned they wanted to make sure it got into as many small vehicles as possible.
Yeah, I think it
So
can. I think
it's
it
a
can.
great first step for building your little cabin on the lake.
Yeah, I think they said it can fit into a cutter,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. Um, which is, I agree. That's great. I think it's a cool little interesting. Um, I do like that it's like a self-propelled sort of vehicle, like you can kind of push it and stuff,
Yeah.
rather than it being like the extra small stuff being in some sort of like box or container that you're physically moving. So I do like that it's an actual device like this. I think it's pretty cool. Um, obviously, we'll talk about it more when we get to the vehicle panel, but they also revealed the next step up for building medium stuff. But essentially, what this is going to build is going to build all small buildings. Now, something they did say about that is that they said that anything small will be able to be built in a single game session. Now, I don't really know what they consider a game session, but if I had to guess, I think they mean 2 to 3 hours. So
Yeah,
I think a
I'd
single
say
building you can build in that amount of time.
1 to 3. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
could
sounds
see
reasonable.
an argument for 1 hour for some of the items.
Yeah.
Power not taking more than an hour. Maybe the building itself taking up to 3.
Yeah.
And then if they are talking about furnishing it as well, the furniture being instant or close to.
Well, and I think the furniture is technically all separate, right? It's all you're gonna do in your crafting machines,
Yeah, that's true.
which is
That's
an
true.
entirely different machine, and you kind of see that when let me skip ahead here. I'm gonna go a little bit further here when he walks in. Is that over here? Yeah, he kind of walks in, but there's the machine inside the building that's like the crafting machine, and it's kind of like a
Already
pretty
in the back.
large internal thing. But regardless, it's I think that is something that either you can craft via base building machines, or
Yes.
you know what I mean. You're gonna have to produce that somehow. So I'm wondering if that is one of the few things that the base building trolley can also create.
Yeah. He mentions that things like that will be craftable by the base building, and then will somehow move into the hab because it's not easy to just move. It'll
Right.
go
They
into
have
an
their like decor mode, their like
yeah,
designer
it'll be
mode.
an
Yeah.
inventory
Yeah.
mode. So
Yeah. Obviously, they talked a lot about material quality. I think this is really going to help define a lot of uh, the differences in people's like base building approach. So, for example, while CIG doesn't have any visual differences on display for the CitizenCon presentation, I have a feeling that if you build a building with really good materials, it'll have a slightly different look to it.
I think so.
I think CIG will give it some sort of visual difference. I don't know what that
Yeah.
would be than a building with lower quality materials. But I can really see people going on the hunt for these higher quality materials. And so, for example, if let's say you're not just building just a simple outpost, you're really building your org HQ. You
Mhm.
might you might have your org members doing a lot of mining and refining, and you may have orders set out where, okay, hey, anyone who gets the good quality ore, we need you to stockpile that for our org headquarters because we want that to be tippy top. And all the low quality ore or low quality refined material, that can be free use for any other structures that are being built in support of the org HQ. You know what I mean? Like I could see there being stuff like that. But what you're going to see and what's going to be interesting to see is what the prices kind of naturally go to for the low quality versus high quality stuff. You know what I mean? It's going to be interesting to see what people are willing to pay for that, and what people are willing to pay. You know, that's going to kind of dictate the market, so to speak. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Thank you. Confused.
Go ahead, V.
I was thinking what you mentioned, my mind was a little sidetracked, but when you mentioned quality, my mind started thinking instead of gathering, say, just like generic or gathering a scrap and having a outpost style building you can make
Yeah.
something much cheaper.
Yeah.
Um, having very different styles, different qualities, but come from different materials.
Yeah.
I could see, the orgs, of course, wanting to build bigger and better and needing those higher quality materials for those really nice building bases too. But I think the opposite is going to be true for your solo player. If you want to build that shack and you've got that container of RMC, you'll be able to build a low quality shack
Just
out
a
of that.
chit shack that you could kind of survive in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, Shady Phase says, I just want different designs of buildings. I don't want to fly past 4 different towns on a planet and the buildings are all the same design. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
already the difference in design language for planets and then the habs on those planets. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's some that look the same, but, and
Here.
also I don't think that you're going to fly past 4 different towns on a planet that easily or quickly.
I think actually what you're going to see is and I think that's a great point. Variety. I think what you're going to see, if I had to guess, it would not shock me if CIG creates 2 or 3 manufacturers of
hmm
building modules, and they have 3 distinct styles. You know what I mean?
That'd be pretty cool.
You know, I know this isn't a building manufacturer, it's a shipping company, but one of them would be the Covalex, branded buildings, and one would be the this and the that or whatever. So
which we have in game technically now. I think Rayari is the high tech manufacturer.
That's correct. Yep, they build the modular bases, right?
Yep, they do the modular bases. I think they're responsible for New Babbage, Orison.
Yeah,
if I remember my lore correctly.
You are remembering
whereas, correctly. And then you have the Colonial style, which is like your 3D printed style pyro outpost. So we've got at least 2, not counting the shacks you find.
Right. So. Someone noticed down here in chat, I forget who it was, they noticed down here, obviously this is just work in progress, but it says crafting time for this small hab is 10 minutes. That's kind of interesting. Another thing.
If when they say a single game session, they mean you could build and furnish and have everything done in a single game session. So you're looking at 10 minutes for a hab, 30 minutes for this, an hour for that. And you'd be able to build it all, in one go.
I think so. I mean, I think they want you to make some progress, because I look at the entire building loop as, let's say you're setting down your first building, right? It's not just the crafting of the building. You're flying around, you're looking for an appropriate spot, you're finding that spot, you're landing your ship, you're pulling your trolley out, you're building, you might put one piece of furniture in there, whatever. You need a little bit of time to do that. And I think if it was something like 3 hours just to build the building, at least your initial building, I think that starts to get a little punishing for small stuff. Now, where you could see differences in timers, though, are the types of buildings. So, for example, maybe just the little small hab is easy to build, right? Because it's mostly just an empty room. But maybe the gas generator power, thing is a little bit more technically minded. Maybe that takes a little longer. Or maybe the hangar, because technically that's being dug into the ground or something, maybe that takes a little bit longer, right? So, I could see it. I could see there being different timers like that.
100%.
We saw this frame here too. This was about resource management. We knew this was coming. CIG has talked quite a bit about this. Hey, Death, hope you're well. They've talked quite a bit about this, that bases, and factory, all that stuff is going to have resource management just like ships. Okay. So what happens when resource management comes into play on these habs is, just from the resource management stuff alone, you've now created a gameplay loop. Right. The gameplay loop is upkeep of your place, right? Repair, keeping the fuel stockpiled, all that stuff. So when you build your first hab, right, or your first little base, maybe it's got a hab, a power station, a hangar. Maybe that's your first thing you build. You have just created yourself a gameplay loop in Star Citizen, because now you have to go out and do things to get the materials for the upkeep of that homestead or whatever you want to call it. This to me goes into why these bases are so fundamentally important. To me, all the gameplay loops tie into these bases and the upkeep of them. So for me, they're critical. This is like critical core tech level shit for Star Citizen.
Right.
Sorry, Andrew, I may have cut you off.
No, you're good. I was just saying, I wonder if there will ever be a level, like to your power, for example. Yeah. Will there ever be a level to my power where I don't have to worry about fuel anymore? Maybe it's I get to the highest level in whatever guild, and part of that is, the engineering guild. Part of that is a fission reactor of some sort, where I don't have to worry about fuel for it. It's just self-containing, but maybe it breaks down faster, so I have to do upkeep on it still. But instead of having to do upkeep and get fuel,
I think you'll see that.
There's a benefit.
Was it my imagination? Did they discuss that just briefly in passing, like geothermal and a few others?
It's entirely possible.
They did. They totally mentioned that. I think they even mentioned maybe even like fusion or something like that.
Solar and geothermal.
So with something like that, or like solar panels and stuff, what I could see happening there is that you don't have to put fuel into them, but you probably have to go back and repair them a lot more because they're like exposed to the elements or whatever. So as a matter of fact, with 4.0, with Pyro, we're getting repair missions. Have you guys seen those, the maintenance missions? They're coming with 4.0. So essentially, you're going to take your multi-tool, which has its repair functionality, and you have to go to outposts and repair generators and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they did highlight that in a ISC. I'll have to find that, but yeah, we're going to have maintenance missions, essentially repair maintenance missions.
That makes me wonder if there would be, and this would get pretty fun, to be honest with you, if there would be a way to put in a requisition for someone to do maintenance on a particular area for you. They have authorization to go just to that area, so they can't enter a hab or anything like that, but they get access to your land to do the upkeep and then take off. And once they've done that, they get paid, and you don't have to focus on it. It now creates not just a NPC driven game loop, but it also allows you to add a player driven game loop to it as well.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
I think it'd be cool if say I had a hunting lodge that I have that I don't feel like flying out to upkeep because I've got something else to do. If I could queue up a mission where I'm paying, it's pulling money from my bank, and it sends a player out to fix that. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, player beacons are a thing, and there will be a lot of kinds, but I would like to. It'd be nice if you could just kind of automate that a little bit and just say, okay, I've got this. I'd like to queue up, and it's just automatic.
Yeah, and I had a few great questions I've seen pop up related to ships. Citizen Ninja, and I think there was someone else. If you guys will hold those questions and like keep them in your pocket for a minute, when we get to that ship panel, I'd love for you to ask those again because I think we do have a few things to say about that.
Yeah.
Trucking right along though, because obviously this goes on for a while. Getting back to the end of the base building thing, they really showed some massive bases, right? I mean, they went all the way up to org level. Let me go here. Yeah, let me go. Oops, there it was. Sorry. Org level kind of massive bases, right? With lots of landing pads, these foundational squares with big open areas. If you look at this big shot here I have up on the screen, you can see everything from manufacturing hangars. I see some sort of hospital wing over there. Obviously, it supports multiple ships. This would be for org level. So this type of stuff is great to see from CIG because it's showing right away that they don't look at this as you build a few buildings and you're done, right?
Right.
What they're showing by showing this much depth is that they're saying that, hey, you can build something or build it with friends and you can invest time and effort in building that out. And what's going to be great about that is you're not going to fly over a planet and just constantly pass by little rundown podunk, same little 3 little building archetypes all over the place where people built a house, a hangar, and just kind of left it to rot. You're going to see these bases where people have put time and effort over time, and it's going to be really interesting to see how creative and big and interesting they get. I'll be really curious to see how CIG plans on handling the memory usage of this type of stuff and what sort of limitations are there. It also probably will play a little bit into something they spoke about at last CitizenCon, where if the person that built it, well, see, this goes into a different thing. They talked about how if someone builds a base and they built it on a different, and that person is on a particular shard, and you fly past that base and you're on a different shard, it'll be there, but it will be in a read-only state, meaning it can't be damaged, it can't be messed with, but it's also not active. So it's essentially window dressing, right? Which means probably doesn't have full interiors and all that stuff. I could see them doing that from a culling standpoint and keeping performance in a good place. Because if all the bases are actually there on every shard, I just don't see how that's going to work. So I'm really, really, that's the big giant question mark for me with bases and player built, places, is how is CIG handling that? I think we'll probably start hearing about that sometime this year, but we're going to need some answers on that. Like, how does the authority of those bases work? And especially when it's an org level thing, right? Does does it operate like a ship at that point where if you have a building that is, I mean, do all your org mates have to be on the same shard or the active shard to access the base? You get what I'm saying? Or
Is it is it possible? Again, I'm going back to another game that we played, and I can't think of it right now, Grim.
Mhm.
Is it possible that those areas could be instanced, so window dressing until you get to it? Once you break a perimeter, it instances it somehow.
So
And
it's a good question. Let me say this. I know that would make a lot of people unhappy. This idea of an instanced base where it's not like totally out in the open world. But I'll be honest with you, I'm okay with certain things like that if they're going to keep the performance and the playability of the game up. But
right.
to get a little bit more nuance like that, maybe there's an interesting way you could set your base to an instanced base or an open world base. I could see that as being interesting, where an open world base, maybe you do get slightly better resources and other benefits from being in the open
Mhm.
world, but it's riskier because now anyone can see your base and
Yeah.
possibly screw with it. Or you can have an instance base, which is a hell of a lot safer. You don't have to worry about outside influences, but at the same time, you don't get maybe as good of resources and stuff. Jeremy there in chat and YouTube says meshing should handle the load. I hope it can. I really do. We'll see how their meshing tech works. It's just we do need some questions answered in regard to that.
Good, but let's not just go meshing is the answer. That sets a standard that if meshing ends up not being the answer to that, is going to piss a lot of people off because they came up with that thought process. Hey, meshing should handle it.
Right.
Will it though? We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, it's a big question mark. We're still waiting to kind of find out.
I do like the way they handled the defense of these places. Somebody asked a question about, claims jumpers and how do you stop a claims jumper from coming onto your land while it's being built. I thought that it was interesting the way they are handling the defense in the different areas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a pyro, as an example, if you're in a lawless area, you're going to need to have some defenses, or people can come and do whatever they want. What's up, donuts? I won't say whatever they want, but people can come and fudge with your stuff.
Yeah.
And I liked how in a lawful area, it's handled for you, but you're going to pay taxes on that.
Right.
So,
right.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. I dig it, and there's the different systems which have different levels of protection and all that. I dig all that. Yeah, I'm really interested to learn more, and I think that's going to be a big focus, maybe of quarter one, quarter two ISCs in 2025, is hearing more specifics on how they're approaching the base building, back end type stuff. How
Yeah.
some of those subsystems are going to work. Um, Real quick here to move us along, let's talk about crafting real quick. They showed a really great example of crafting where they crafted a gun out of lower quality materials and one out of higher quality materials. And the one out of higher quality materials did not have as much recoil and other benefits. They then showed an example of a quantum jump drive component. What's that component called? Not the jump drive. The one for quantum boost. What's it called, Ender? The component to quantum jump.
The quantum drive.
Quantum drive. Thank you.
Yeah.
They showed an example of a quantum drive. that had been made with great materials, and it could spool faster, and everything. That seemed to be what we all expected. Do you guys have any opinion on that? I mean, for me, I thought it was right in line, and seemed really cool. I can see people, the gameplay loop there just to find the really good blueprints, right? So doing a bunch of mining to get really good blueprints that'll help you craft certain things is being really cool. I think that will really kick people into doing their professions, doing their salvage, doing their mining, doing their refining, what have you, doing their bounties or their bunkers or stuff like that to get maybe military blueprints, right? But I like that you have to get the blueprint. You then have to do the research, as you're seeing here. The researching is sort of takes a while, right? Higher level the research blueprint, the longer it takes to research. But then once you learn that blueprint, you permanently learn it. And then after that, you can then refine and then craft the item. So there's kind of a little bit of a loop there. It's not just like, oh, I've set down my crafting table and now I'm just making shit. It's all about there's a science component here, because a lot of people have asked in the past, when are we going to get science gameplay? Well, this is part of science gameplay. It is crafting, but it's part of science gameplay because researching is in the science gameplay loop, for those that didn't know.
Right.
One of the things the Endeavor has, by the way, is a research module that's supposed to allow for really advanced research, right? So do you guys have any opinion on this? Is it mostly what you expected? Any surprises here for you all?
I was surprised, and Trust just hit it, just spoke it as if he or she is in my head.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they went as far as to say, okay, well, I got really good copper, but I got bad copper, but I got really good platinum, as an example, for the gun. I can't remember which the components were, but I know copper was one.
Yeah.
But because of that, now I've got great recoil control, but it doesn't shoot as fast. My fire rate's a lot lower. I thought it was interesting that they went that far into it to break down, okay, well, your platinum is going to be for this, your copper is going to be for this, and then whatever your third item is going to be for this stat. And if you get better platinum but not as good copper, it'll change those stats up. So you can really customize a gun in a really cool way by messing with, okay, well, this is how I want it. I don't want it to have a high fire rate, but I want it to be less breakdown, so I'm going to use these instead.
Jeremy in chat said not all crafters will be equal, and the stuff they make will not all be the same. I agree. I think that's really cool. And not only that, it'll allow you access to things that maybe are not within your gameplay loop. So let me give you an example. They on day one, they showed that really cool, I know me and Ender are really excited about it, the sandworm boss monster hunter fight, right? I can't wait to go monster hunting, by the way. But the cool thing about that is that there's the harvestables off of that. And if you kill the apex worm, you get the rare, like the ultra rare materials. Well, let's say that those materials off that worm are something you need for something you're crafting. But let's say you're not like a combat person, right? Citizen of the Verse, thank you for that follow. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Sent the javelin overhead. But let's say you're not into that combat fighting gameplay. Well, that's okay, because then you just put in chat or trade chat or whatever, and you reach out and say, hey, I'm looking for XYZ materials from an Apex Valacar or whatever they're called, willing to pay good prices, and you're going to be able to facilitate that trade, because I guarantee you there's going to be groups out there that stockpile those resources off of those giant worms or whatever other rare creature or rare artifact there is, because they are a combat group. They're a combat org, right? So they have all the means to go out there and take down these giant worms, right? So those people are going to exist, and trust me, they want to make money too. So they're going to be more than happy to sell you this stuff. So that, and here's the thing, when you get all that stuff kind of interplaying, all these different ways to go about getting something, you inherently create cooperative multiplayer gameplay just through that, because and here's and we'll talk more about this when we get to Star System 1.0 panel, but you'll hear a lot of people complaining about in regards to that panel. They say, well, they're not thinking about the solo player. But in actuality, they are, because you can literally be just a miner, have just a prospector in your hangar, just go mine. And you technically can still get anything done you want. If you want to craft some crazy weird extractor for your prospector, but you don't have the materials because you don't go hunting big sandworms with 30 people, I promise you will be able to buy it from someone. Okay? So it's going to, here's the thing, as long as the game supports orgs and big multiplayer groups, the solo players are automatically supported through that.
Yeah. All they need
Through
is the cash
exactly is the
to go
money.
with it.
All you need is the money to pay your way. The in-game money is what I mean, to
Yep.
pay your way to get what you need. And as long as you have a single profession you're doing, you should be able to do that, right?
Especially if you're focusing on it and you're sticking to it. You know what I mean? I don't mean like 40 hours a week working, but
Yeah.
as long as you're sticking to your job and if you're crafting for people. You're not just out there not doing it.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, we're going to move on to the next panel for the sake of time. So that was crafting and base building. I'm personally really excited. It seems like VMXEO and Ender are very excited for it. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I built my entire future in the game around that. Base building is what I want to do. That's a lot of my ship decisions are based off that, etc. So
we literally built our org around that
yeah,
ideal. So
exactly.
I was stoked to see this because it fits perfectly for the org that we're building.
Yeah. Citizen of the Verse, I hope you're well. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right, we're going to move over to the next panel. This one is called Crafting the Verse. Or no, sorry, this is called Captains of Industry. I'm sorry, Captains of Industry. This is the ship panel. Before we jump into this, though, we're going to talk about an outlying ship that came out a little bit before, but I'm including it in this year. We're going to talk about the RSI Zeus. Had a great trailer here. I'm going to play the trailer here while we're talking about it. We had the ES, which is the Essential, and the CL, the Clipper, both released flight ready into the game. I know, Ender, you had a chance to fly the Zeus VM. Did you have a chance to check it out in game yet?
Yeah, I've got a ES actually in my hangar.
Yeah,
and it's smooth. It is a much better ship than I think I ever expected from CitizenCon last year. It's so cozy.
Yeah.
It may overtake my 400i as my daily driver.
Yeah.
It's very well designed. I could sit here all day and probably talk about all the things I like about it, but it's got a good solid feel for its size.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I'd call it my current daily driver, the CL actually. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm pulling out a ship that I'm driving on a daily basis, it's either my Zeus or my C1, and considering the C1 was it for a while, and I thought was going to be it forever. Having to say that about the Zeus is strange, but I like the interior of the Zeus. It just depends on how many people I'm taking with me that day.
Yeah.
You know, if it's just me, I'm probably taking, my Spirit. But if it's you, if it's me and you, Grim, the Zeus is definitely coming out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, it's just a well-designed ship. Interior is amazing. It's amazing what it's incredible they were able to fit that in, that interior inside this ship's current scale. Again, very impressed by that. Yeah, Citizen, I love the fact that you can see the missiles through the floor. It's a really cool little feature. I think we'll see some of those carryovers in the Polaris too. When they did the internal play of the Polaris interior, you can actually see some transparent areas like that were kind of cool. All right, let's go ahead and go to let's see here. Let's go to the first thing they talked about, which was the Argo CSV family. Two versions of this, the CSV FM, which is the fabrication module version. They revealed that. And then the CSV SM, which is the supply module variant. To speak really quick on the fabrication module version, I saw a couple of content creators say that there was that previous there was that previous still from last year's CITCON presentation that showed a big like Anvil Atlas platform base building vehicle, and they said that that's still to come. That is not. This is the replacement for that. That vehicle was labeled as building medium buildings, but the CSV FM also builds medium vehicles. So this is the replacement for the Atlas level vehicle. I think what CIG did was, I think they went ahead and went, well, to build medium-sized buildings, we don't want people to have a C2 Hercules and up, because what that would have done is it would have locked down medium base building to people that own ships big enough to carry a ballista. And I think personally, I actually do think that's too punishing. That means that you're locking medium base building behind a ship that costs, what does the C2 cost? It's not cheap. It's like $400 or
Not
something.
cheap at all.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
so
You said C2, right?
yeah, I mean, so when people, complain about CIG in terms of being money grabby and stuff like that, I think sometimes that people don't look at the places where CIG actually makes really good decisions that can make you not have to spend as much money. The Argo CSV FM is going to fit into any vehicle that can fit a Cyclone, I think they said. So a Cuddy Black can carry this thing, and it can build medium buildings. That's a pretty big deal, and it's something that's really important to think about. So yeah, if you go back to the CitizenCon 2953 panel, you will see that that big ballista vehicle, it says it builds medium buildings, medium structures. We're not getting that anymore. CIG's moved away from that. We got the Argo CSV. That is a good thing for players. Okay. Yep. That means you do not need a $500 Hercules to build a medium base. Okay.
Yep.
I think that was a fantastic choice by CIG. And again, I think it's one of those things that players that do complain a lot about CIG's monetization practices. I think sometimes they overlook cases like this where CIG makes a really good decision. So,
I can agree with that.
Yeah. So do you guys have any thoughts on the fabrication module or the supply module variant of this? My only thought, and I was kind of curious what you guys thought, is that I guess I kind of felt a little weird about this SM version, the one that actually went on sale that you could buy and was ready to go. I feel like it was just easy to make the variant. I don't think it's really integral to base building at all. Do you guys feel the same?
I don't think I've ever seen a vehicle or a ship for that matter. I just looked at it, I was like, okay, and just moved on immediately.
Yeah.
It did nothing for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've used in game, but it was like.
And it's Argo. I thought you would love an Argo ground vehicle.
I thought so too. So I can't tell you why it doesn't do anything for me, but
it's very vanilla looking. It's
mid.
Yeah,
I think that's part of the reason though, is it's vanilla looking, which makes it mid, but also it doesn't do enough to be like all out amazing. It's not the ATLS,
right?
Where it's like that's useful. I got to walk mine around, one around yours recently, and it was the first time I got in one, and now I have to have one.
Yeah.
But I just don't see
the cargo version, right? The SM you're talking about, the little
any of them, honestly. But the SM for sure. To be honest with you, I had forgotten that they had an SM and it was out.
Yeah.
Until just now, and I went, "Oh yeah, they did do that."
Well, the FM I think is going to be a critical vehicle for.
Sure.
I think that's going to be a critical vehicle for small groups of friends, maybe 3 to 5 people. Their org isn't going to get any bigger than that, but they still want to build a little org base where maybe medium buildings are going to be plenty for them. This is going to be a critical vehicle.
Somebody said the CSV super mid. Grim, can you Skunkworks one of those?
I may have to.
Super Hornet.
Yeah, I may have to. But I think this vehicle. I still don't think this vehicle takes the mantle for boringest vehicle. I still think that belongs to the Drake Mule, personally. The poor Drake Mule. The poor Drake Mule. I
The
don't
Drake
know.
Mid, you mean?
Yes.
If they had taken the mule chassis, maybe upsized it a little bit to carry 2 SCU,
Right.
you might actually have an interesting vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, at least this carries 4 SCU, so.
Yeah. But the big thing I think here is boring as the CSV family is. And I remember us hearing about this rumors about the CSV, and I was very excited. I thought it was going to be something really cool. But the big plus for the CSV that I think everyone should keep in mind is that CIG gave us a very, in CIG terms, cost efficient way to build up to medium structures, right? So if that hover trolley, let's say they sell that on the store, let's say if that thing is $25, $35, and this thing is like $50 or whatever, maybe they'll come in around that, I don't know. But this can fit into very small ships such as the Cuddy Black and vehicles like that. I think it's a great. I think CIG made a great decision here, and by not going with that ballista platform sized vehicle. So I'm happy they did that.
Do you think it's possible that, like, say the Pioneer would be able to make that drone, that small drone module, and craft that so you wouldn't have to buy it?
If it's a vehicle, I technically don't see why it couldn't. As long as you have the blueprint.
And then you could end up depending on the parts, it might depend on what speed you end up with.
Right.
I'm theory
like a higher quality one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool. Anyway, continue.
No, it's a great point. I mean, and for that matter, can the Pioneer build a CSV FM? I don't see why it couldn't.
I don't either.
Because it can build vehicles, it can build ships, it can build, so I don't see why it couldn't.
Then you got to wonder what the higher quality would do. Maybe it goes faster. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think, or maybe it builds a higher quality default building, right? Who knows? That's a great question. I think that's a very valid question. All right, let's go on to the next reveal. The MISC Starlancer family. We were introduced to 3 variants. The Starlancer BLD, known as the Build, which is the crafting ship, or the base building ship. We were introduced to the Starlancer TAC, which is the tactical variant, combat variant, and then the Starlancer Max, the cargo, or I like to just call it a general purpose ship, but it's a cargo ship. Real quick here, I'm going to go ahead and play, while we're talking about this, the Starlancer Max commercial. I'm going to jump in first on this one. Actually, no, I'm going to hand this one over to VMXEO because VMXEO recently CCU'd to this ship. So VM, tell us what you like about the Starlancer. What's your thoughts on it?
I like the Freelancer. I know that's going to be a controversial thing to put out there. I had one, got rid of it, melted it, and regretted it. Ended up buying a Max, and just loving the Max. It is an older ship though, and this is definitely the big brother. It's got the modern amenities though, and it's the kind of the cruise size, the cargo size and the cruise size I was looking for.
Let me interrupt you. Did you happen to read the jump point that was released today?
I did not.
Okay, it's all about the Freelancer Max, or the Starlancer, sorry. But here's what's cool. Early on in development of the Starlancer, it's referred to as the Super Freelancer, which I thought was really cool.
And it's got that look. It does look like a Super Freelancer.
To me, it looks like a really awesome Freelancer.
Yeah.
I would say it's the best looking MISC ship, personally. Hands down. Personal opinion.
I'd give it that. Man, someone compared it to the Firefly from the same show.
Yeah.
It's got a look of like a mix of that, maybe with a little bit of Razor Crest mixed in.
Yep.
But it's still unmistakably MISC.
Yeah. A lot of carryover from the Odyssey on this one. I know the Odyssey is still concept, but
carryovers.
When you look at them side by side, there's a lot of like carryover there. Yeah.
So I think it's a good ship for a lot of reasons. You do have to like misc and misstyling. A lot of people I think have a valid complaint if they don't like the viewport. The front windshield is a mail slot. Understandable. I don't think I've ever minded on the Freelancers, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about it is, again, the habitation area. Like the whole sea feels awkward to me, and
Sorry,
go ahead.
Well, let me jump in there real quick. So the habitation is different on the variants, but on the Max, one thing I do like about the habitation area, which is really cool, is it does what the Corsair does, only even better, and it's purely for RP purposes. Every crew member has their own suite on board with a bed and a bathroom, like their own private storage, like their own little apartment on the ship. All 4 crew members have their own private one. From an RP standpoint, I do love that. Like the Corsair, everyone just gets their own little cabin.
That's awesome.
But on the Starlancer, you get your own like full-on ensuite and everything. Like it's kind of cool. It takes up a big portion of the ship, but it is still kind of cool from just a purely RP standpoint.
Yeah. Which I don't mind. I would have loved to see it, for instance. What if they gave windows or skylights into each of the rooms? I think would fit into the design of the ship.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
The main habitation area where the food and the pool table is, I want to do something else with it. It's one of those things I can't wait to get into the files of it and kind of play around, and I'll probably understand better why they laid things out the way they did. But sometimes when I have a hard time verbalizing why I don't like something, it's really I just need to get in and start fiddling and moving stuff around, and I'll usually figure out why they did things the way they did. So, the BLD, Joe, the building version, I can't wait to see how that turns out, and maybe eventually I'll upgrade to that from the Max, but we'll see.
So and we're going to get into that discussion in just a second. One thing VG says here is that the Max has a unique feature in that it's an internal hauler. It hauls its cargo internally, but you can load it externally, which is cool. That's a really unique feature. It's actually super easy to load this thing, and then it hauls it internally. So I do think that's really cool. One of the things that was also asked was, what are your thoughts on ship tier upgrades? Feathers, are you talking insurance? We're going to get to that.
No, he's talking, so if you own a ship, you can actually upgrade ships to higher tiers, a lot like you can with the guns.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They were talking about. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
I think it's awesome. I like very cool.
I'll tell you, as far as the Starlancer goes, I hate MISC ships. I'm just not a fan of MISC. I love this ship.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's really slick.
The look of this ship is awesome. The Freelancer is not my favorite ship. It's probably my least favorite ship next to the Constellation series. But the Starlancer series it's really, really good. I like it a lot.
I flew a Freelancer for quite a while in game. It was my package actually. Yeah, and I really liked the Max. It was a fun ship to fly, but it was a little hard getting away from the I'm just going to go ahead and say it, the phallic look of it. However, the new way that they're designing the MISC ships, and they did this with the Odyssey as well, where the front fuselage is flattened a little bit and streamlined and not so bulbous. I really like that small design tweak. I'll be honest with you. I really am curious if Gavin Rothery designed this ship or played a role in it, because I know Gavin did the Odyssey or had a big hand to play in that. And this has some serious Odyssey design cues going on. And I was wondering if maybe he had a hand in it, or at least I'm pretty sure Gavin did.
Well, I mean, I
believe.
Go ahead.
We had that YouTube video, and it was Alberto Petronio, who was the lead concept designer on it. Whether Gavin had input or not, I couldn't say. But he does good stuff on his own. Yeah, gotcha. he does awesome stuff. So if it wasn't Gavin, it was probably him, because
Shout out to Alberto, by the way. If you haven't seen that, we could probably post it. But one of the lead concept artists at CIG did kind of a presentation to the Blender community, and it was hosted on the Blender channel. And they've got like 1.5 million subscribers or something. And inside his presentation, he used a STARJUMP poster, the all ships poster, to show the breadth of CIG ships that exist. So that was a fun little STARJUMP drop. Thank you, Ender. Appreciate it. Fun little STARJUMP drop he put in there. It's near the beginning, but really cool that he did that.
About a minute and a half.
Yeah, and I don't know if he did it on like purpose. He probably just found it and was like, "Oh, this is a good example." But I'm still glad he did it. So that was really cool. I have been told by Ben Curtis a couple times actually that they bring up the STARJUMP all ships poster and we'll look at it as a ship team sometimes. And they think it's really cool. It's actually I got a video message from John Crew and Ben Curtis just days ago. Saying how much they really like Fleet Viewer and how much and Execute from Info Runners. Shout out to Execute and Algorithd, who had a couple of STARJUMP posters that I had sent them. Execute and Algorithd gave John Crew and Ben Curtis the posters, which I thought was really cool of them. So,
Execute, you're probably not here now, and I don't know what time it is there, but. Appreciate the shout out on that for sure.
Yeah, always good at giving that support. But yeah, on the Max though, I'm pretty excited. It's going flight ready at IAE, so we're all going to get to see it in the flesh very, very soon. I think the TAC will be soon after that. I think the TAC will probably be Q1 of 2025. I don't think they're that far behind on it. I inspected the TAC model, the Holo model, and the TAC Holo model was actually in better condition than the Max Holo model. So I thought that was interesting, just in terms of detail. Let's talk about the build for a minute because I think this is a discussion. Let's go back to earlier this morning, shall we? Okay. Actually, let's go back a few days ago.
Yeah,
I had heard through some highly placed sources, CIG sources, that the Galaxy was probably not getting its base building feature. And I was told even a few days ago, and Ender can back me up on this, I was told that if it's not on the store, then it's not real. Okay? Which is a weird thing to say. But John Crew made a post this morning on Spectrum after a lot of people were asking about the Galaxy's base building function since the Starlancer BLD popped up. And John Crew confirmed that that was the case. The Galaxy base building module was not being concepted right now, was not in active development, wasn't a thing, and that the Starlancer build was the large base building thing. Everyone lost their mind. I bought the Galaxy for base building. I held back, though, and reserved freaking out, mainly because in my heart of hearts, I thought, they're still going to do a base building module for it. They just will. I was more concerned about the Galaxy not going into production as a ship. I had some warning signs about that. Well, the internet blew up, and in a course of about 2 hours, John Crew rallied the troops on CIG's side and changed the narrative pretty quickly on that. And just to speak to this real quick, and we're not going to belabor this, I don't want this to turn into a Galaxy drama thing, but I know a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth from how John Crew worded that, in the Spectrum post. But one thing I think that's important, Spectrum is one of the worst places to divulge and go back and forth on information. It's just a super heated platform. John Crew, obviously, he is the ship director, but he's not the game director. He doesn't know every in and out plan for every single little system that's happening. Okay, that's not his job. His job is to build ships. 3, I can promise you, John Crew does not give a shit if the Galaxy builds bases or not. He probably was just reacting to other internal forces at CIG that said, "Hey, we're going to do this. We're doing this. Can you plan for this? Can we move A to B to C to D?" Despite that leaving a bad taste in your mouth on how that was worded this morning, let's leave with a positive thing, right? This is the first time in history I think CIG has ever 180 pivoted based off a bad reaction and fixed and righted a wrong. Okay? I personally feel too that it was John Crew that made sure that wrong was righted. Okay? I don't think this was thrust upon him or anything. He's the vehicle director. I think he made this happen. So I actually look at it as I think this is a great thing John did. He saw the reaction to it. He made a follow up post that didn't really help matters. And I think he went away and said, you know what? I stepped in some doo doo. I need to fix this. Let me go back and talk with the team. Team, can we make this into a module at some point? They gave the thumbs out. He came out and said, we're going to make it happen. Don't worry. Everything's cool. It wasn't a week later. It wasn't 2 weeks later. It was 2 hours later. I don't think we've ever seen that from CIG. So for those of you that left a bad taste in your mouth, try to look at the positive. It was turned around quick. It was a good learning moment, right? That's all we can do here. And believe me, they're not the only company to make mistakes like this. Don't get me started on Bethesda and the horse armor debacle. Okay, I mean, I'm just saying that there's a lot of game studios that make decisions that go bad. Okay, in this instance, CIG corrected that bad decision and they corrected it quickly. So let's leave it at that. Now let's swing back to the Starlancer build. The Starlancer build is our large base building ship. Comes with 4 large drones. It sounds like to me CIG is really, and I'd like to get your guys' opinion on this, because something really interesting happened. And there's a couple things I'd like to get your guys' opinion on. Something really interesting happened. The Starlancer BLD, the Atlas FM, the CSV FM, the fabrication module variant, and that little base building trolley, none of those went for concept sale. Did you notice that? But the TAC and the MAX both did, and the CSV SM did. That shocked me. And here's something interesting about that. They didn't talk about the Galaxy and its module, obviously, but they also talked about no other base building ships. They only talked about the trolley, the CSV, the Starlancer build, and the Pioneer. To me, and I kind of heard through some of my sources, CIG is focusing on those 4 platforms for base building and only those platforms for base building for right now. That's what I was told. Meaning they don't have like another base building ship that they're about to reveal or anything. They're going to focus on those 4 because they want to be able to lock down 4 levels of base building and get those systems ironed out because they are pushing aggressively on base building. That's what I was told. So we're not going to see a bunch of like miscellaneous base building stuff coming in randomly. They want to settle on these 4 vehicles for now. So with that being said, I'd love to know your guys' opinion on that. Do you feel like that was kind of a weird thing that though, like the build and the CSV FM and the hover trolley did not go on concept sale? Do you think it's because maybe they're trying to take a different approach with these specific vehicles because they're going to play such an important role in the future of this game and the next big thing, which is base building? Thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think we could, emphasis on could, be seeing a change in the way CIG is doing things. They're not selling a ship that's not coming, right?
Yeah.
They're not selling a ship that's not here yet. I'm not saying that they're going to stop selling concept ships, right? Because they obviously are going to.
Yeah, Jeremy, hold that thought, by the way, but keep going, Ender.
But I could see them getting to a point where they're like, hey, wait, yeah, we got this ship, but we don't know when it's going to come out. Why don't we hold off on it and then move forward? And you know, we've got these for sale and we'll sell these, but we're not 100% sure on those.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to
go ahead.
Sorry, just add to what Ender's saying. They've mentioned they don't want to release ships that don't have gameplay loops. That's why we haven't seen the Legionnaire.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I could see them announcing, yeah, we're going to do base building ships. They will be available when base building is available, and who knows how far out that's going to be.
And the Pioneer is being sold right now because, not right now, but because it's whole limited, as I understand.
Yeah.
But the Pioneer is still going to be sold because it was already sold. They can't pull that back.
Yeah.
And to tell everybody, hey, we're not selling this anymore would be, I think, worse than what they're transferring to now.
Yeah, and just to answer Jeremy Figment on YouTube's question, Jeremy asked that they showed off a large tower that represented an unannounced large base building ship. That's this tower here. That was before they announced the Starlancer. So this tower is the placeholder for the Starlancer build reveal.
Yeah.
So that's what that was. Just so you know. From what I've heard, the best of my knowledge, there is no other base building ship in production. So it's these 4 vehicles: the hover trolley thing, the CSV FM, the Starlancer build, and the Pioneer. So
the hover trolley is small. CSV is medium.
CSV's medium,
and then large.
Starlancer's large. Yep. And then Pioneer's extra large. Correct. It's not to say that later they won't do more base building ships. I'm almost guarantee they will. I'm just saying what I think they're doing is locking down on these 4 ships in these 4 size categories for now, and they're just locking off for there and focusing on just those. And you may ask, well, why? This is CIG. Trust me, they'll want to build more ships. Here's why I think they're doing it. There's something really important to realize about base building. I'm sure everyone in chat's realized it already. It deals with drones. We don't have drones. So not only is base building coming, drones are coming.
Drones are coming.
So it's going to be challenging enough for CIG to get base building working. They also need to have drones working, and drones working well. And remember, those drones have to fly back to those vehicles automatically, land on them, refuel, and then take back off and build more. CIG is not going to want to be working those complex AI routines out for multiple ships. That's why they're going to focus on these 4 ships and lock down the base building process for these 4. That's my thinking. VM, go.
I just realized what kind of AI you would need to do to run drones.
What's that?
Voids. They would act like a flying creature.
There you go. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. So if they're working on flying creatures, they're probably already thinking something similar for drones.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I could totally see that.
They're working on birds because of the video.
Yeah.
From day one. So.
Yep.
By the way, Grim, would it be safe to?
And by the way, I'm coughing, but I'm muting in the OBS when I cough.
Would it be safe to theory craft, I guess is what I would be doing, that if they're working on drones and they're getting drones done, mines could be close to it?
Well,
Mr. Nautilus?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say right away, we do know mines have been in development for some time. I can bring those up right here. These are screen grabs from an ISC not too awful long ago. You can see multiple different types of mines being developed in this thing. So they have been working on them. As a matter of fact, I think it was almost a year and a half ago they were working on mines. But what we do know is, and what I have been told, unfortunately, because I have done a lot of back behind the scenes digging on this. From the best of my knowledge, unfortunately, the Nautilus is not in production, nor has it been in production. Then that the only reason its concept model is so good was because the artist who worked on it, and I always forget his name, his last name's like Oberschneier or something like that. That concept artist just built a really good concept model. But apparently it is still a concept model. So, unfortunately. Okay.
Well, one could hope.
Yeah. All right. We're going to keep moving. We're going to move to the next thing, the big one, the big daddy, the Consolidated Outland Pioneer. I'm going to go ahead and move to the new concept image, which I love this image. Oops, sorry. Stand by. There we go. Let's talk about the Pioneer. I got a lot to say on it. I'm a Pioneer owner. This was kind of an interesting one because I've been following the conversation around the Pioneer since the CITCON panel. When you watch the panel and you hear John Cruz say the Pioneer had to be reconcepted and they flash to the screen, there's a little bit of applause, but then there's like a really scared silence in the crowd. And I went to Spectrum almost immediately because I was like, oh God, I want to go to the Pioneer forums. I want to see everyone saying that the sky is falling. I didn't see that. As you watch the panel too, the cheers get louder and louder the more he reveals about the new Pioneer concept.
Yep.
And the fact that, and I'm a Pioneer owner, like I said, the fact of the matter is, this is the best reconcepting of an old ship they've ever done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Absolutely.
I hope they do the same when they do the Genesis Starliner and the Endeavor and the Crucible and everything. But for right now, this is single-handedly the best reconcepting they've ever done on a ship. They took the Pioneer concept, of which it did one thing and only one thing. The original Pioneer contract, or the original Pioneer construction ship, built modular bases and planted them into the ground. It literally planted them into the ground. That's what it did. And that's all it could do. They took that and they essentially put a factory inside of a ship. And that factory can do a lot of different types of things. Okay. In addition to that, they added smart quality of life things right out of the gate where when you land this ship, its landing gears are actually resource extractors that will start extracting from the ground as soon as you land and get set up. Incredible, right? I mean, could you imagine a mining ship like that? Like a different version of the Prospector that just lands and uses its landing gears to extract? Kind of a different way to mine, but really, really cool. The Pioneer has grown to 247 meters long, so it's now longer than an Idris for those of you keeping track. And it's wider. It's now, I can tell you this, it's now longer, and it's longer than an Idris and wider than the Kraken. Okay? Not longer than the Kraken, but it's wider. This is a big, big ship. Okay? Inside, you have a really cool bridge area. You have a really cool habitation area. You have suites for all the crew, isolated suites. You have 3 or possibly 4 crafting, like the large crafting machines. So the great thing about that is while this ship is base building, you can have crew on here also crafting guns and other furniture, all the other stuff right on board the ship. It has a fabrication hangar, which we know is something that you can build for your large land bases. Fabrication hangar is suitable for extra small and small ships and vehicles. So what does that mean? That means you're going to be able to craft the Nova tank in this thing. You're going to be able to craft the Storm. You're going to be able to craft ships up to essentially the size of a Nomad and an Avenger and ships like that, and all the way down. And then on top of that, it comes with 4 extra large drones, which will be needed to build the largest of structures. And we're going to get to what that large structure is. I'm sure all of you know already. It's the space stations. But that being said, that overview out of the way, Ender VMXCO, do one of you have thoughts on the new Pioneer reconcept?
Genius.
Yeah.
They took a ship that, like you said, had one purpose,
Mm-hmm.
that they had built for that purpose, and they said, all right, things have changed. That's not how it's going to work anymore. What's the best use of this ship? And somebody went, let it do it all. Let's make it a one-stop shop for building. So now you have a ship that can build your farm, furnish your farm, and build the equipment needed to run your farm. Just as an example.
Yep.
Oh, I need a ship. Okay, let's build one. Oh, I need a vehicle. Let's build a few. Oh, I need a couch. Yeah, we got that too. And then somebody went, what if it could extract what it needs to build some of this stuff too?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, but how would we do that? And so they went, just put it in the feet.
Yeah.
Just put it in the landing gear. So they took a great design, made it better, and then improved on that. And that shows that they not only know their ships inside and out, obviously, but when it comes to having to reconcept a ship, it shows that they're not just going, all right, well, what would be cool? They're going, what would be functionally cool?
Yeah.
How can we improve it? The rule of cool doesn't just win out because, oh, this is cool. They went, yeah, but how would it get more? It's got 1,000 SCU, but as it's eating it up, how do we get more? Thanks for following, Harry Lemon.
Yeah,
Love
thank you,
that
Harry.
name. They went, how would it do that? And somebody went, let's put extractors on it. Let's have it extract what it needs. I think this is a genius ship. They did an amazing job. It's
Well, you said something kind of interesting there. A lot of times CIG tries to make ships not do it all, right? They kind of go out of their way to do that. And even with modular ships, and I think this could have been a little bit of the issue with the Galaxy, they were trying to make it not a do everything holy grail ship. But I feel like the Pioneer, they went the other way. They're like, well, this ship's going to be the ultimate builder, right? I agree with you. I agree with you. I think they knocked it out of the park. There's a few things that it lost personality-wise that I think are unfortunate. Starlet brought up that it doesn't open up. The top of it doesn't open up anymore. And I think that is a little bit sucky because it is cool when it's unfolded. It kind of turns into a factory. But again, you're losing something visual for functionality, and functionality is going to be a lot more important. VM, any thoughts on the Pioneer?
Blown away, actually, for several reasons. One, most that Enter and you had just mentioned, but two, that we're going to be getting this in a relatively recent time frame. Sooner rather than later, because I think this was one of the capital ships that it's always been. I love this would be like if I had a capital ship, this would be what it was.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like, we won't see this in another 5 years out, if ever.
Oh, yeah.
It might come out right before the BMM, but...
Oh, I thought this was going to be one of the last caps made, for sure.
Exact. Yeah. So hearing that this suddenly has gotten bumped up, and it is a priority now because of the gameplay, I was like...
Yeah.
This is looking pretty good, so...
And on that, here, and you'll see some of the top-down layout of the ship, It's going into production. John Crew said that this won't become. He said something really interesting with this. So I'm glad you brought the timeline up, VMX. Yeah. Two things that are very important to note. He said that this won't be there for day one base building, which is to be expected. And he said that this ship was going into production literally within 2 weeks. Okay. Two things to read there. For one, I think this ship will take, at a minimum, I think this ship is 18 months of work. I actually think it'll be a little longer, but I'm going to go ahead and say 18 months of work to build the Pioneer. Okay. I did see someone in chat, by the way, earlier in the show, ask if this ship was going to, if some smaller consolidated outland ships were going to come out to build up the asset library for the Pioneer. I'm going to go ahead and answer and say no. I don't think that's necessary. Partially because I think that they've actually already got some consolidated outland assets that we don't know about because I think they're in Squadron 42. In last year's Squadron 42, I held the line video. You see a massive consolidated outland ship at the very end of the gameplay trailer. It's off to the right-hand side and it's flying. I think it's a blue ship. It looks like a giant barge. It's a consolidated outland ship. And you can tell because it's got almost the exact same bridge as the Pioneer, and the panel lines on the side of it are literally the panel lines from the Pioneer. It's not the Pioneer, but you can tell it's from Consolidated Outlet. So I think they've got that. So let's say it takes 18 months to build. Let's just say that for devil's advocate. What that says to me is that CIG is looking at base building as coming online sometime next year. Now, maybe it's end of year next year, but sometime next year. Would you two agree with that?
Yeah,
that lines up.
I
Yeah.
could see that for sure. Yeah.
By the way, I'm just going to say this too. I always have said that the Kraken, to me, has the best bridge in Star Citizen. I'm wondering if the Pioneer is going to take that mantle.
Don't say it.
The bridge on the Pioneer looks kind of insane.
It does look good.
Just gonna say, it looks
Always has been.
pretty epic. Yeah. Yeah. Citizen Scott says that's beyond optimistic. Look, I totally will admit to you and agree with you, Citizen. I'm being optimistic here. I'm being optimistic, but, and there's a big but here. I think from everything I've heard, I've got it on pretty good authority that the CIG ship team has grown quite a bit, even from just last year, from every bit of information I have been told. Okay. As a matter of fact, to give you a little bit extra information, Execute Now Grid made shirts for all the CIG ship team members. When they asked Sandy Roberts for the ship team, how many ship team members were, or whoever they asked, I know they were talking to Sandy. I can't remember who they asked though. The number they were told was 54 members of the ship team.
A lot.
Just at last CitizenCon, they said the ship team was 28 people. So that's an almost doubling right there in 1 year. Now, I think some of that is squadron people coming over and joining the ship team. But that's a big boost in the amount of ship team members.
I believe within the last year, they also brought on a new ship team over in Montreal.
In Montreal, correct.
Yeah, which is responsible for the Zeus.
Yeah. So it stands to great job on that ship. So it stands to reason that they may be able to push through this faster than expected. I'm not saying that will happen. Again, I've been down the Star Citizen the road many times, but I at least like what that seems like it's saying. Yeah. So we'll see. But this actually, funny enough, this along with space stations was the biggest shock of the CitizenCon for me, because I agree with you, VMX. I never thought the Pioneer would be going into development, but I think there's something else to read into from that. I think the fact that the Pioneer is going into development, because it's going to be a huge lift, that should show everyone how serious CIG is about base building.
Yeah.
This is, I gotta tell you, I don't look at this as a feature where they're just, we're going to do a tier 0 and then we'll let it sit there for 3 years. I don't get that impression. First off, they're not going in at it tier 0 if they're building the Pioneer. Because let's be honest, they could have just brought out the small and medium base building stuff first and just said, we're going to let you guys play with that for 5 years, and then we'll come out with the bigger stuff. That doesn't seem to be the case here. So yeah,
no,
go ahead.
I think you're right. I think they're going, all right, let's get this done.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. So again, really, really cool. And yeah, as McT says, they did say base building was in for 1.0. I fully agree. I mean, I think base building is a core feature of 1.0. So yeah, but yeah, that is the Pioneer. I'm really excited for it as an owner. I'm also excited to hear more about the add-ons for the people that do own the Pioneers, because as a Pioneer owner, I have an estate parcel land beacon already. And I have, which comes, I think, is an 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer land settlement claim. And I think it also comes with building a big stock of building materials. So I'll be curious to see if CIG ruminates a little bit more on those. I'll be honest with you, I'm so happy with what they did with the Pioneer. I'd be okay if they retconned that and didn't give us any of that shit. I know they will, but like I'm so happy with the Pioneer changes. There's I'm just over the moon with it. So amazing job by CIG on this one. I think we should give them that. Next thing, they talked about last year's teaser ships and what was created. Let me go to that frame.
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead, jump in.
I'm gonna gloat as much as I possibly can because it's not often that I'm right. But I told you all that was a Crusader ship. Just gonna throw that out there.
That is true. Everyone thought it was RSI.
Everybody said RSI, and I was like, it's not a fucking RSI shit.
Yeah, Crusader Intrepid.
Yes,
I have seen some rough imagery of the Intrepid. It looks like a really cool ship. CIG previewed a little bit of it too. I think it's going to be a cool ship. But CIG did say that the Intrepid, the Mirai Guardian, and the Polaris all will be out by the end of this year. So I think that all but guarantees that that the Intrepid and the Guardian will be flight ready at and the Polaris will be flight ready at IAE. We already knew the Polaris was. Let's go a little bit further. They did this preview of ships here. You can very clearly see the Anvil Terrapin Medical. I have a feeling some people will be interested in this. Bingo, is Bingo?
Are you in chat? He's gonna have one. He's gonna have one, of course.
Yeah.
Yep, he's here.
Yeah, I have a feeling Bingo will get this ship. But VM, you're a big Terrapin fan. Are you?
Am I?
I thought you were. You are. Yeah, you are. You're playing with me.
You're probably thinking of Ventivar. He's the Terrapin fan. I'm the Hawk fan.
Okay, right.
I don't think we're getting a medevac Hawk anytime soon.
No.
You know what? That would be cool, though. I could see the Hawk being repurposed for that.
There are supposed to be
in a pretty cool way.
There are supposed to be Hawk variants, though. Wasn't it originally said that there was going to be Hawk variants?
Shadow Hawk, a few others.
Yeah, the Shadow Hawk and a few others. Yeah. I just like the Hawk because I think it's
treatment.
I just like the Hawk because I think it's the ship that looks most like a Decepticon. Anyways, here, go ahead. Thank you, Captain, for that follow.
It's been a community dream for so long to have a medical version of the Terrapin. It really makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a fan favorite.
Terrapin needed some love anyway.
Yeah, I personally think the Terrapin is overpriced myself. Mentalic, thank you very much. I think the Terrapin is an overpriced ship personally, but I know people are excited for the medical variant, so I'm happy for them if that's what they're waiting on. You can see here glimpses of the Crusader Intrepid. That's what you're seeing here. It is an asymmetrical ship. It kind of looks like the Star Runner, the Spirit, and the Ares all had a bastard love child. You can see its asymmetrical gun here on the one side. It only has that gun on the starboard side, not the port side. Yeah. It's got a small interior. I think they show that interior here. I actually didn't know the interior would be as big as this. I thought it was going to be extremely small interior. So I'm pretty interested in this. I know, Ender, you're very excited for the Intrepid.
Yep. I got a C1 that I'm willing to, for the right ship, melt. And this one looks like a daily driver to me.
Yeah.
I've got an E1 that I will never melt. But I'd be willing to melt that C1 for the right thing. And that very well may happen. Very excited about this ship.
Let's take a look at the. Oops, one second. Let me close a few tabs here, people, just to keep the old memory usage. Let's go to the big boy in the room now, the RSI Polaris. We finally got our look at a couple things. We got to look at the new weaponry that have been upgunned on it. This is the bespoke dual size 6 man turret up front. I think it's our first size 6 gun in the verse, if I'm not mistaken. I think if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Additionally, there's been more external palm decal work and stuff added to the ship. You can kind of tell at the end of this sequence. But we got our first look at the Polaris interior. And I got to say, I was blown away. I think this ship goes down as their current crowning achievement in both exterior and interior ship design. There's every part of this ship is literally dripping with detail, and I think they nailed it. It's got a bridge for 5 up here, very spacious, very roomy. I love the consoles that everyone sits in. It kind of looks high tech with the glowing all glass dashboards and stuff, which does make sense because the Polaris is one of the newest ships in the game from a lore perspective, so it would make sense that it's very high tech. A lot of people were saying that they really needed to add a hollow table to the Polaris. They did. That is right behind the bridge here. You can see that they added that. Going down, we pass the escape pod rooms here. Moving down there, they added a cargo or an access lift, which we didn't know was going to be there. And then going down the main room here, one of the things that I noticed was that they changed the layout of habitation of the actual bunk rooms quite a bit from their original, the original gray box layout that we had saw. So I'm sure we'll hear about that at IE. They made significant changes there. They also went back into the habitation area where the galley is and everything, and changed the layout of that from what we saw in the in last year's preview. So a lot of internal changes from last year's gray box video. You see here a brief glimpse of the medical wing that they pass by, and then they turn into the hangar. Very big hangar. Again, this should be able to support up to a Scorpius landed or a Saber, Saber Comet or what's the, not Saber Raven. I forget what the name of it is.
Or not the Comet.
You know what I'm talking about.
Now we're all of us blanking on this.
Blanking.
Seriously?
It failed me.
Saber. Saber. Firebird, Peregrine, Raven, and Saber. And
Yeah,
Comet.
I think it's just the Saber, yeah. So
just the Saber.
The engineering room here, I think, is one of the coolest looking engineering rooms I've ever seen in a Star Citizen ship as
those
well.
ribbon pipes.
Oh man, the ribbon conduits, the liquid cooled pools down there.
That's so awesome.
The engine core down here. I'm hoping that all these terminals are usable. I don't think they are. I think some of them are just dressing and that there's one primary engineering table there, but I hope you can access them all. But just really effing cool. I mean, God, they blew this away. Who would not like to work in the engineering room of a Polaris?
So I would totally work in it unless we're in combat, because I don't want to risk falling in those pools. I assume that they're going to be glass covered, but if you look, it doesn't look currently like there's anything covered.
I know they don't. You know what I'm wondering, Ender? I'm wondering if it's not like full on liquid, but if it's maybe some sort of like gel or something, like cooling.
Could be a gel.
I don't know.
And then a gravitational. Obviously, we've
matrix
mastered
or something.
Gravity, so a gravitational matrix that's pulling that down. A gel makes sense though.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you can fall into that and it'd be bad.
And then continuing past the cargo room, we come up to everyone's favorite, the torpedo magazines. They're the rotary magazines. There's 4 of them. Looks like they can hold at least 4 size 10 torpedoes a piece at any given time, which means for quick loading, that would be 4 times 4. That means 16 torpedoes are ready to go at a moment's notice before you have to reload the rotary magazine launchers. Or spindle or whatever you call it. So I think that's really cool. Torpedo room looks awesome. Then travel up past the lift access on into the torpedo control room. Again, pilot cannot fire these torpedoes. I think that's a good decision. You are going to have a friend on board to fire those. And then down through the main man turret, size 6, and out the front again. You'll notice here when we pull up, the exterior has gotten a little bit extra love. There's just like an extra layer of detail on it beyond even what we saw at Invictus. It looks stunning. Again, one thing I want to highlight about that is that I think they put so much detail into the Polaris. They knew they had to go back and update some of the other capital ships like the Idris and the Javelin. I have a couple stills I can pull up to highlight that. I will pull up, where is it? Sorry, I have that here, stand by.
No, we're not standing by, sir.
Yeah. So here's a picture of the Javelin. You see it's got completely different engines on it, a lot of different panel lines if you're familiar with the Javelin like I am, but the engines are completely different. They're these new like Chevron engines. They've totally taken all the old engines off, so that's a big change. They did the same thing with the Idris. Here's the Idris. You can see it's using the same Chevron engines, and they even replaced the forward engines with these little tuck-in things. All the panel lines on the exterior top have been completely changed. These look completely different from the current Idris. Again, I don't think they changed anything on the internals. I think these are just external greeble changes. What I think they're doing is bringing these up to parity with the rest of the with the Polaris in terms of quality. I have another good shot here that I'll show. Here's another great shot of the back of the Idris. For those of you familiar with the Idris, you will notice significant changes on the back here. The old Idris, this little piece that juts out here is like flat. They put a pretty hard angle. We got the new Chevron engines all over it. A lot of new panel lines and structures. Again, the overall Idris hasn't changed much in its form factor, but a lot of the external greebling has changed. I was actually shocked at how much has changed on it. I thought a few things would be different, but they've changed a significant amount of stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I had heard someone say that perhaps those are different versions of the Idris or something. I don't think that's the case. In our Idrises and our Javelins that we fly in the PU, they're military surplus that are put out to the Militia Mobilization Act. So they're the former military Idrises and Javelins that were from back in those days. So we're not flying like a newer version of them or anything. We're flying the military surplus versions. So I think what happened is, and we might hear from Nathan Dearsley at some point. Nathan Dearsley, I know, is kind of master of all things Javelin and Idris. If you've ever watched the Big Guns of the UEE video, you'll see Nathan talk in depth about those two ships. I think we'll get another video from him sometime this year going over the changes to those two ships. All right, let's go to our last ship thing here. It is the Ad for Mission video where CIG shows what is in the next 12 months. So let's go ahead and hit it. We might pause on a few of them. Stand by here. It'll probably play in just a... No, I don't think it's a Mark II Idris or anything like that. Obviously, this right here is the CSV FM, the fabrication module variant. We know this is in production. We don't know what this one is. This one is a bit of a mystery. I've heard some people say this is a Gray Cat CAV. I think that's purely speculation, though, but I don't know if VM or Ender, if you had any thoughts about what this could be.
I wonder if that's we've seen in the concept art a few times. We've talked about the Atlas with like the cargo module on back.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering,
it makes sense. It seems
it's much
very
smaller than that, but
it is much smaller than that.
Yeah.
Cargo or even a ground refueler would be an interesting vehicle to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could it?
But that's all pure speculation.
Could it be an Atlas, but with this is how you carry the building module in the future? I don't know if it's small enough to carry that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's made by Tumbrel. And the reason I think it's Tumbrel is because it's got tank treads on it. You can see the back of the tread here and up here. If you look really carefully, it's got a tread that goes all the way around and under. There's only one manufacturer that does tank treads, and that is Tumbrel with the Storm, with the Nova. I wonder if it's some sort of Tumbrel competitor to the Ursa.
Could be.
That'd be an interesting...
Yeah, tank tread driven Ursa type vehicle. Maybe slower but tougher, something like that.
I'd like that.
Marine USMC, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. Let's keep going. Next one is obviously some sort of new ballista variant. Would you all agree with that?
Yeah, for
That
sure.
is definitely the Atlas platform. Definitely
Yeah.
got that Atlas
Yep.
silhouette.
I don't know what variant we're missing from that though. Like, what is needed?
Refuel.
That one actually could be the refueler. It's almost got like a tank on the back, like a
It
tanker
looks like
truck.
a tanker on the back.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
refueler.
interesting.
It's got to be.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that. Let's keep going. I could see that. This is definitely the Ghost, the F7 Mark II Ghost, I believe.
One of them, yeah.
Yep.
I think that one's the Ghost, and I think the next one's the Tracker.
Next one's the Tracker with the dome on it, I believe.
Here, you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Tracker.
Next, this is definitely so here's where we get wrong. I thought this is definitely a Terrapin. I thought this was the medical Terrapin. But if the medical Terrapin's coming out of IAE, this to me's got to be something different, because this is, unless they had it in here and it's.
Well, think about it. We see another ship that we're like, oh,
well, that's
we
true.
already know about that.
That's true.
I think
that's
this is the medical Terrapin.
Yeah, I think you're right, Andrew. That's a good point.
Don't second guess yourself on that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Medical Terrapin.
And if you're wrong, hey, we have another Terrapin.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I think this is the Mirai Guardian. We're all pretty certain that this is the Mirai Heavy Fighter. We have heard on good authority there's two variants of this ship. Maybe not, but we've heard enough. We've seen enough code string leaks that suggest there's two variants of this ship.
Even when John Crew mentioned it on stage, it was like, okay, we don't even nonsense when you know what it is.
Yeah.
He was just resigned to the fact that it had leaked. You all know.
Yeah. This is quite obviously some variant of the Prospector. I don't know what kind of variant. This could be the Misk Fortune. I know people have said that. Say again?
Go back to the Guardian. Go back to the Guardian.
Okay, stand by. Let me go one more.
There's a lot of people saying it's not the Guardian. I'm curious why.
I know a lot of people have said the scale looks smaller than the Guardian. The only problem with that, and the reason I wouldn't put much weight into that, is that the only reference for scale that we have for the Guardian is an old concept image that leaked out that is very concept. So they could have changed it since then. So
also, it was from a different perspective. We haven't gotten a ground view either.
And
so
I'd also point out that the Mirai Guardian was one of the ones that was talked about being previewed for coming up. So
yeah,
it's the Guardian. Yes.
I think it's the Guardian. Look, I may be proved wrong, but I think it's the Guardian.
I agree.
Let's keep going. The next one is this Prospector offshoot. Again, not sure what that could be, but curious. I mean, it looks like it's got a mining head on the end of it, though. So
I'm real confused about this one. I don't know.
Yeah. This one is a big mystery. I can't even fully tell if this is a ground vehicle or a ship. It looks like a ship.
Well, it's a ship. You can see up at the front there, Grim.
Yeah.
You can see the landing gear there. Now, obviously, they could be doing a forced perspective thing, but I don't know why they would have anything that looks so much like a landing gear.
Yeah.
Up at the front. I'm just wondering what ship this is.
What manufacturer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still wondering if you look at the landing gear, it looks familiar. I just can't place where it's from.
Yeah, this is
not
definitely
the Apollo.
Yeah, it's definitely not the Intrepid. I know what the Intrepid looks like. I've seen the full ship.
Not the Intrepid. It's not the Intrepid at all.
Yeah.
This is decidedly not Crusader.
To me, I can only think of two manufacturers this looks like. Either Anvil, which I'm not thinking it's Anvil, or Consolidated Outland.
You think it's Consolidated Outland? I could
possibly.
Anvil.
I could see them doing another Consolidated Outland ship now, since they're doing the Pioneer. Just they're in, Maybe they
Do you
could
think
be.
they're a medium consolidated Outland ship?
Maybe,
I
possibly.
can see
And
that.
they ditched the hover landing gear.
Well,
That
the
wouldn't
Pioneer
make too
doesn't.
much
The
sense,
Pioneer
would
has
it?
landing gears, so I don't know. You know,
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
but the
I'm wondering
landing
if
gear are
So is the
functional.
Mustang, but
I'm wondering if there's two versions of consolidated Outland stuff. Like there's like the high tech fancy stuff they like, and then their industrial wing. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I don't think it's RSI personally. I don't think it's. It could be Aegis. I wouldn't totally slag off Aegis. It could be Aegis.
The only thing that's keeping me from going, yeah, definitely Aegis, is the landing gear. The landing gear doesn't make a lot of sense to me right now.
Yeah.
Something about it is strange looking.
unless it's a weird entry ladder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It could be, or a elevator that's lowered.
Right.
Or that's actually not part of the ship at all. That could actually be a hangar.
It
Part of the
could.
hangar
It could literally be forced
knick-knack.
perspective, and we're looking at a ground vehicle.
Yeah.
It would be
could be-
genius
that
of
could-
them to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Next ship is.
Are you saying it's in this ship?
It's definitely a UAP.
This one.
I think it's pretty clear this is Drake, mainly because these wings look like Corsair styled wings, but also up here at the top of this wing, it's got that same sort of little probe sensor thing that the Corsair wing has.
Am I the only one that feels like we're looking at the back of it?
You could be right. Another thing is, another reason I think this is Drake is that if you go back and look at if you go back to the subscriber vault and you go to Jump Point Magazine, if you find the Jump Point Magazine on the cutter and you go back to the subscriber vault on the early concept images of the Corsair, there is a concept that CIG has flirted with several times that looks very similar to what this is. As a matter of fact, one of their first versions of the cutter looked really similar to this, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I see them going back to this this concept. So obviously they like it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked good. I remember the concept, and it looked good for the concept.
I'm thinking it's
Make
a Drake
it a little
heavy
bit
fighter.
bigger. Give it a yeah. I could see that being a heavy fighter.
Heavy fighter from Drake is what I think.
I would have expected them. Honestly, I would have expected them to make a heavy Buccaneer, but the more I think about it, the less that makes sense. The more it makes sense for them to make something that looks decidedly like this.
Yeah. Next, very clearly the RSI Apollo, which with the Apollo, remember, there's two variants, medevac and triage. The next one is definitely the Starlancer series. Remember, we're going to have two of them still in production, TAC and build. Next, we have the RSI Perseus. I think a lot of people are really excited for this. It got a big applause. I think it'll be interesting to see if this one has grown at all. Next one on that list is the Drake Ironclad. Was anyone surprised by this one?
A little bit. I didn't expect him to go back to Drake so quickly.
Yeah.
But I can say that I'm not too terribly surprised because they teased the Kraken, and even though I know it's not going into production anytime soon, it was still a Kraken that they were playing around with. So,
well,
I guess they were kind of prepping us for this.
Yeah, VM, you got any thoughts on this? A surprise maybe that it was going into development so soon?
A surprise, but a pleasant one, if it is.
Yeah, very pleasant. Again, and everyone remember there's two variants of this, the Assault and the base variant. Yep. I am stupid amounts of excited, as Ender would say, about this ship going into development. First off, I love the Ironclad. It's one of my favorite general purpose cargo ships. It actually would, when it comes out, it'll become my main cargo ship. But also, it is the stepping stone to the Kraken. Ben Curtis and John Crew have said that. I think they're very, very aware that people want the Kraken. It comes up much like the BMM in almost every conversation. And the funny thing about the Kraken is people want to see that ship in game who don't even own it. People just are excited to see the G.I. Joe flag carrier, battleship Yamato flying through space. And so I think everyone's kind of getting excited about that. Next ship. Next ship is the Pioneer. Okay, no mystery here. You can see the two main antennas and just the overall scale of the ship. This is the Consolidated Island Pioneers. This wasn't a mystery. This is a wide range of ships. And the first thing that stuck out to me when I saw this was I was like, wow. So it's not just an RSI family of ships they're sticking with. What's changed?
Size of the ship team.
Yeah, so we've heard a few things. John Crew stated today that the Perseus will be the next ship from our side because it has the most carryover parts from the Polaris. So if you see the Polaris and you like the way it looks, get excited because the Perseus is going to borrow heavily from it. That's great to see because the Polaris is, again, I think their best work. 2, I think that in the course of working on these families, I think the ship team grew and gameplay dictated other needs, right? So I think what we're seeing is obviously just focusing on a single ship family. Something about that was not as efficient as they thought to future game plans or future gameplay plans. So they're just making some changes. But in terms of the ships going into production in the next 12 months, I'm really excited. One key thing that's important to remember is while last year's video said these ships will release in the next 12 months, John Crew did not say that about this video. He said this is the ships that will go into production within the next 12 months. Okay, so the Ironclad may not go into production until November of 2025, and by November, 1,000 things could change that make the Ironclad never go into production. So when you watch this video, do not count on any of these ships coming next year. Cross your fingers that some of them do, but don't bet your wallet on any of them are coming. Okay, pro tip.
Yeah, very pro tip.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move us along here a little quicker because it is getting late. So we're going to go to the last thing, and I'm just going to let us freewheel talk about this one. It's Star Citizen 1.0. Okay, here it is. What a lot of people had been waiting for. I know it's something I had been waiting on for a long time, and we have a new game director now, right? Richard Tyre. I'll go ahead and give you my kind of initial impression. And before they announced the Star Citizen 1.0 vision, and you're talking to someone who, from our previous StarJump Station episodes and stuff, I've researched all kinds of old videos through old design documents, all that. I mean, I've read up on stuff from 2014, 2012. I still didn't know what the actual gameplay vision of Star Citizen was. Now, there's other backers out there that say, no, they just explained it in the past. They may have, but I never found it. And I think the proof is that no one could quite explain what Star Citizen was.
Yeah.
Right? So, right off the bat, I'm just glad we have a vision. Even if it's not everything I want or everything I was hoping it would be. And I'm not saying that that's the issue. But even if that was the case, I'm still happy there's a damn vision. Because without a vision, then my money that I put into the game is truly wasted. Okay? But I will say this. The vision laid out for 1.0, to me, is exactly what I was hoping it was going to be. It was what I want from Star Citizen. If they can pull this off, there'll be no other game like it, in my opinion. And I've heard some people say that, oh, it's a juiced up Star Wars Galaxy, it's an Eve 2, stuff like that. And I think it's got parts of those games. And as it should. They shouldn't be trying to reinvent every single wheel. They need to look at all those games, take the best parts of them, and replicate it. Do you know why World of Warcraft was the biggest MMO of all time? It wasn't because they did everything that no one else had done before. It's because they took the best of every MMO that had come before it and did those things a little better. They replicated them and tried to do a little bit better.
And then you know what else they did? They took the best of all the MMOs that came after them that were emulating what they were doing and improving on some stuff, and they grew with that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. A lot of these features are those MMO staples that make an MMO what they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. So everything from the guild, so everything from the in-game guilds, the adding a main story. If you watched my 1.0 stream from before CITCON, the number one thing I put in the critical features list for 1.0, because I was all speculating, the number one thing was I said an onboard narrative. When you start a new character in WoW, and I'm going to use WoW again, and you choose Night Elf, the first thing that happens is a camera fly through cinematic that tells you the backstory of the Night Elf culture. And when the camera lands on you, the first quests that pop up are your story quests to explain who the hell you are. CIG needs that for Star Citizen. We need exactly that. Okay? Because we can't count on people to have played Squadron 42, by the way. We can't count on people to have watched every Astro Historian video ever made. We need that. Okay? So, I think that's amazing. I think the in-game guilds, the NPC-driven storyline quests is all stuff we needed. The gameplay loops on how crafting and base building tie in to get your ships, all that stuff. Plenty of room for the solo player to find carve their way through the verse. CIG's got an entire plan for a PvP playground in that of Pyro with the contested shield technology thing. And whether you like it or not, please remember something. The fact that they're making that little PvP playground does not preclude open world PvP. Remember, you'll still be able to attack a ship somewhere. So they didn't remove that. But what they did was put in place a place where there is some structured PvP content. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't give a damn about PvP, but their PvP construct with the shield tech battle over the shield tech tokens kind of made me slightly interested in it. Okay, PvP players should want that. And then, of course, the org in-game gameplay stuff, instance content in the form of raids and all that stuff, fleet battles. If you were one of those people that your dream for Star Citizen was to get into huge fleet battles, you should be happy because they just announced there's going to be instanced fleet battles. Why is that important? Well, it means you're going to be able to have giant fleet battles with good performance, right? Because they're going to be an instant scenario. I think that's amazing. And maybe it is something where if two fleets are out in space and they agree to do battle, you are then transported into an instanced version like little pocket universe to do that battle. There's a lot of ways you could do that that could be really interesting. You know, here's the thing, and I see what you're saying, Citizen, but here's the thing. The vision laid out by Star Citizen, I can't name a single other game out there currently that is that vision. There's other games that have parts of it, but none of them that have everything they laid out all in one setting or all in one game package. So it will be a unique thing. I think they are still doing something different, right? And if they're a good game studio, I would hope as we get to 1.0, they'll see what works and what doesn't work. And if certain things are attractive to players, then they'll build more into that. And if players are resistant to certain things, then they'll pull away from that, like any good game company would. WoW does that all the time. You know, each expansion, Blizzard will add content that the players don't really love. Well, then the next expansion comes along and they don't do it anymore. They abandon it, right? They try
WoW does it a lot.
They do it a lot. You know what I mean? So My opinion, I'm super excited for Star Citizen 1.0. I believe in Rich Trier to get this done. It looks like he's done amazing work with Squadron 42. I do believe in him. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's not a knock on Todd Pappy, by the way. It's just that I do believe in Rich's vision. And I'm more excited now than I was before about the future of Star Citizen. Does it mean it's exactly what I thought it was going to be? No. But I like what they presented. When I watched it, I left with one feeling. I said this earlier today to someone. I left with the feeling of, I want to play that game. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that they're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that some of the features and stuff are going to be terrible. But what they outlined is something I want to at least try. I want to play it. I'm excited by it. That being said, Ender, VM, who wants to go next? What's your thoughts on Star Citizen 1.0?
VM, you want to
go? Aside from what's already been covered, it's wrapping up what Star Citizen needs to be a viable MMO. It's those final pieces. And we're finally getting an end game to the development cycle, I feel it's like. That they can actually come out and say, yes, this is a finished game that you can, the public can play. And depending on the timing, my guess is that's going to happen around the same time Squadron 42 comes out.
Yeah.
So they want to ride that wave. Yeah, they'll get in all those players playing Squadron 42 who want more. And then they'll have, hey, here's a polished MMO based off of the same universe.
Yeah.
But that's a lot to do in 1 year or 2 years or however long it's going to take them for that Squadron 42 cycle. Well, so can they get Squadron 42 polished and everything they want in? I don't think the features they're outlining are going to be that difficult. It's not like server meshing where it's a holy grail tech they're working on.
Yeah.
It's going to be putting in hard work, but it's fairly straightforward, I would say, relatively, at least compared to what other things CIG does. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, if I can interject, Daftol just said STARJUMP Grim. Who else is intervening at CIG scale? Nobody. I mean, I'll look at it like this. All you have to do for the people out there. So let me take the play devil's advocate out there. So let's say if you're one of those people and you walked away from the Star Citizen 1.0 presentation going, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted it to be something different. I'm unhappy. And that's fair. You're allowed to feel that way. But let me pose something to you. Is there anything out there that exists that was what you wanted? I'm guessing no, because if it did exist out there, you would be playing it, right? If there was some other game out there that did that thing you wanted to do. Okay. So it doesn't exist. Star Citizen 1.0, the vision they've outlined, I think everyone could agree there's at least parts of it that does interest them. If you've been following the game this long, I imagine there's at least some parts of this vision that you do like, because some of the stuff they have talked about for a long time.
Yep.
Isn't it worth giving it a chance? Right? I think it's worth at least giving it a chance. There's nothing else out there that does it, so there's nowhere else to run. Right? There just isn't. CIG's trying to come up with something that's realistic. So let's see where they go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I agree with a lot of people in chat. They've got a tall order. This is going to have to apply to excuse me. Thank you for that follow, Guga. This is going to have to appeal to the hardcore players like us. It's going to have to appeal to the casuals, to the solo, to the org, to the PvP, to the PvE. It's got to appeal to a lot of people. And it's going to appeal to certain groups more than other groups, probably.
Yep.
But personally, I see a place for everyone in the vision they outlined. And I think that was exactly why they outlined the vision the way they did. I think they were trying to appeal to every demographic sector, right? I think they were. And here's the thing. If you're a solo player, this is the number one thing I've heard is that there's nothing for solo players. Here's what exists for solo players. You are going to exist and play in a sandbox that all this stuff is happening in, and you will be able to carve whatever path you want through it. If you just own a prospector, it's the only ship you own, and you just go out and mine and you make some money and you buy a few things and you build a little small house on a planet, and that's what you do, that is a solo gameplay loop.
Yep.
And it caters to that. You don't have to build a space station. That's the end game for an org.
Oh yeah.
That's not the end game for a solo player. Right?
Here's what I think is great about Star Citizen and what V said about them hopefully bringing it with the end of Squadron 42. Somebody forgive me. We were just talking. I just stuck at names. Mutant was talking about how we need those mainstream players to buy into the game, and you're not wrong about that. In my opinion, I just don't care as much about those transient mainstream gamers and their opinions as I do people who are into the game. That being said, I know how important it is to have those transient players who are here for the pick of the week before they move on to the next pick of the week. And Squadron 42 is going to bring those people in. And some of them might stick around, but we're going to have, for a time, big streamers who are playing Squadron 42 because,
hey, Bradley, thank you very much, man.
It looks amazing. And then they're going to go, well, this is connected to Star Citizen, so what's that all about? And then they're going to get a $45 package and they're going to start playing Star Citizen. And maybe they're not MMO players, so they end up going, yeah, this isn't for me. But maybe they aren't MMO players and they still end up going, you know what? This is an FPS game. I get flight sim. I enjoy this.
Yeah.
I don't need the MMO part, but I can do the MMO part. And maybe we get large streamers who are going, this is great. You get more eyes on it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to freeze on this still right here. If you look at the United Resources Workers Guild here, which is one of the guilds in game that you're going to be able to work for, one of the NPC guilds, by the way. Okay, remember, everyone's saying, "No, there's no NPCs in the game now, no NPC economy." It's going to be tons of NPCs. As a matter of fact, that's the whole thing Rich was saying on stages. There's going to be a ton of NPCs in the game you have to interact with now.
You have to deal with this to get the stuff that you need.
So
you don't become a citizen without it.
If you look at this, there's stuff for everyone here. For under builder, you can build space stations. Obviously, that's an org level endeavor. But there's also FPS mining. So what they're showing here is you're going to be able to do just FPS ground mining with your character, just mining nodes. You're going to be able to do that and work up the ranks of the United Resources Guild. You don't even need a ship to do that, right? They're catering to all levels in terms of what I saw, okay? So, again, I didn't see any holes in the presentation, personally. I don't know about you all, but I didn't see any holes in the presentation. I looked at it very much like an Elder Scrolls thing or something, right? Where there's like the Thieves Guild and the Black Hand and all that you do your missions through and work your way up. It's the same sort of thing, right? So for me, it was very exciting to see. Let me move forward a little bit here. Let's talk about the 5 systems real quick. We know we're going to Castra, or Pyro, Nyx, Castra, and now Terra. Terra has been revealed as the 5th planet, the 5th system, but also, more interestingly, the reason it's Terra is because the main story is going to center around the conflict with the UEE and Terra, right? And Terra and that political pressure of Terra trying to be like the new, center of the universe, essentially, over Sol. So that'll be really interesting to see. I did not expect Terra to be coming online anytime soon, but if I had to guess, we're going to see Terra going into production pretty damn soon. We know they're in gray box on Castra right now and pre-production on Castra, which is really exciting. Nyx looked damn near done. I think it was listed as gray box, but I don't know about you guys, but it looked like done to me practically. I'm going to pause right here. I know a lot of people were complaining on Spectrum again that this was not an NPC driven economy. They were complaining that it was only going to be a player driven economy. I want to point out right here on this slide, it says Star Sim powered dynamic economy. Star Sim is the new version of Tony Z's Quantum. This was said on a Star Citizen Live episode. As a matter of fact, they kind of let it slip, and one of the developers even said, did we ever reveal it's called Star Sim yet? So they changed the name internally to StarSim. Okay. So if you hear anyone out there who says, oh, it's going to be an all player driven economy, there's no NPC driven part, that's false. He did not say that. He very clearly points out in the slide here StarSim powered dynamic economy. So while yes, that does mean that StarSim may be a little different from what Quantum originally was, maybe they've made changes to it. I have no doubt that Star Sim still has some AI NPC driven stuff going on in it. If it was purely player driven, they wouldn't need Star Sim to power it. We would power it through our transactions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it would be easily ruinable, much like, I won't call it ruined, but WoW's player driven economy is rough to say the least, depending on what server you're in.
Right. They talked about death of a spaceman, taxes, and insurance. That was a big one they talked about. And there was a lot of let me see if I have it here. Bear with me. But there was a lot of discussion around you know, did I save that chart? Let me see if I saved that chart. I may not have, but there was a lot of discussion about the insurance stuff, and they did go into that. So there's going to be levels of insurance and there's going to be levels of warranty, essentially. Insurance essentially is going to be through 3 levels: level 1 chassis, level 2 chassis and component, and level 3, which is chassis, component, and decorations. Every ship that has been pledged for with real dollar, like real money, automatically gets its insurance component and chassis insurance. The insurance is good for the duration of the insurance listed, and it comes with a warranty that covers both chassis and component.
Yeah, and then you can upgrade.
You can upgrade that, and those are permanent warranties, by the way. And then the insurance is permanent up to the timeline of the insurance. So, and remember, those insurance timers. So if you have 10-year insurance or whatever, or 6-month insurance, that starts when Star Citizen 1.0 goes live. That's when that timer starts. A lot of people have 120-month insurance. That's 10. How long is that? That's 10 years, right?
10 years. Yeah, 120 months. That's 10 years.
And also, Chris Roberts has said multiple times that if you do run out of insurance, you're going to get multiple warnings and pings in game that you're currently not covered on a ship.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not. I don't think you're ever going to get surprised by that. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so. I have one ship that has 6 months insurance, and the rest are either 120 or lifetime. So I've got to find out I got to figure out how to upgrade to that ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Keep
going. Sorry.
No, and we're not going to go through every single thing of this. One thing they talked about was that the claim timers for ships will be proportional to crafting them. I think that's smart because you don't want people to lose a ship and just craft a new one as a quicker way than claiming it, or to claim a ship. Yeah. So, and then the other cool thing is,
rather than fix it, they're going to claim it, but now it'll take more time. So I like that. That's smart. They're making it so that you can't game the system too much.
Right. The other thing they mentioned was that you're going to get a shuttle ship to fly out to your ship to retrieve it. I think that's really, really cool. You can then abandon that shuttle ship at your old ship's location, and it will fly itself back, so you don't get caught for like listed as like stealing something or anything. I think that's a really nice quality of life thing. I was glad to see that. And again, they just continued to outline how a gameplay loop would work. You can see that here. I think it made a lot of sense. So I was happy to see that. They talked about the overall end game. Again, it consisted of a lot of things through open world, which consisted of missions, group missions, server-wide events, xenothreats, stuff like that. Instance content, which included fleet battles, military blueprints. Not sure exactly what that is. Strategy-based missions. I'm thinking those are like raids and stuff, and then FPS operations, and then dynamic content, which is stuff powered by StarSim and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, I think there's enough here for everyone, and this is a great structure for them to build off of. Right? There's enough meat on the bone here, I think, to service all of us. They talked a little bit about the PvP thing that's going on, sort of a battle over this or this planetary shield tech tokens, which actually is kind of a really cool idea because it ties into PvP orgs having their bases in contested zones and unlawful zones. So your PvP actually has a purpose that ties back into your org, which I actually really like. It makes a lot of sense, right? So they gave all the PvP orgs or PvP players in a region a reason to fight that actually cycles back into the PvP org. Smart.
And here's the great thing. Things like that, a lot of people are like, well, the griefers are going to be bad. The griefers. This gives them a purpose that pulls them away from griefing and just allows them to blow shit up elsewhere. So it's actually a really genius move. I like the idea. I like what they're doing with that.
Yeah, and another interesting thing is that just because you're a solo player who doesn't like combat doesn't mean you won't ever be able to go to pyro.
Exactly.
Okay, remember, all that means is you're going to have to do exactly what you were always going to have to do in pyro. You're going to have to slip into pyro. You're going to have to drop your EM emissions and your IR emissions. You're going to have to go under the radar, go stealth, get in, get what you need, and get out. It's supposed to be a dangerous system. That's the whole point of pyro.
The purpose of it is danger.
Right. Or you go with some friends, or you make friends with one of these big PvP orgs in it and say, hey, you know what? I want to come in and do some mining. Can I come in and kind of come to y'all's area and be protected? They say, yeah, do that. We're going to ask for 10% of your profit. Sure.
Or, hey, I'm a solo player, but I need protection. Go into pyro. Can pay 4 guys to fly around me in ships.
Right.
And keep me covered. It's that simple. A lot of people are like, well, I just want to be a solo player. Well, that doesn't mean you can't interact.
Right.
A little. You know what I mean? You can literally pay them and then leave them the fuck alone, put your music on, and mine, and know that you're going to be well. Go back. I think you.
Sorry.
I think you did. No. I love watching that quantum travel animation that they've got, the new one. Anyway, oh, by the way, Grim, you said, hey, I didn't see Terra coming on. Did anybody see Terra coming? I mean, did anybody predict that happening at all?
You predicted it.
Somebody
predicted
did. Look at that.
Probably the Astro.
I got 2 things right.
You did. I predicted Castro. Castro was one I knew. I had a feeling Castro was coming for a few reasons. It made sense for it to be a system that would come online. Terra was a surprise.
I expected it, not because I didn't expect the story, but I knew that it played a role right now with a good conflict, and that's needed. So I knew it needed to come sooner rather than later. So when they were talking about, systems, Grim was like, well, it's Castro. And I was like, could be Terra. and it sure enough was Castra. And then during this,
And then
they
the
hit us
following
with
days
that
here.
fifth. I was like, well, look at that.
Yeah.
It is going to be Terra 2.
So let's get on to the last topic for the night, and that is the big we surprise, but not surprise. I mean, we kind of all were hoping to hear more about space stations because it was hinted at last year, but they revealed the giant org space stations, and I think the giant surprise here was two surprises. One, how much work has already gone into them, and two, how expansive and customizable and just big of a project they are. I'll go ahead and give you my opinion first. I knew we were getting stations. I thought they were going to be just small little platforms. I had no idea we were going to be dealing with stuff this big. I don't think anyone did, but I had no concept of us being able to build stuff like this. I
I
love the
never would have
fact.
predicted this
Yeah, I
scale.
love the fact that it's tied behind the Pioneer. So you do need a Pioneer to build it. I love that. Um, it's a great North Star goal for any group. It looks like it's super expansive. And Fastcart just asked, will StarJump have a station? Of course we will, because I think we've all heard of StarJump Station. Yes, we will definitely have StarJump Station in reality. So absolutely, we'll have it 100%.
Yep.
But again, I was just shocked to see you can funnel all your orgs, industry, and professions through this. It gives your combat pilots and stuff something to defend. Again, it gives your entire org something to rally around, something to work for, and something to put their resources into. Okay? All the gameplay loops can tie back to it, and it could be that one thing that galvanizes everyone the org to be a part of, right? It's not a ship in that someone always gets to pilot it. This is
Yep.
a place, much like a base, but this is a place you all can call home. So you'll want to defend it. You'll want to do, the due diligence to put into it because of what you're getting out of it. And yes, Platinum, we're going to announce a lot more on the StarJump org very, very soon. You can technically join the org now through the Spectrum, but we have big plans for it, and we're going to reveal a lot of that very soon. But the big surprise, obviously, at the end for me was that the space station can have capital ship dock, dry dock installed, and will be able to build the largest capital ships. Little bit of information I heard as well. Some people know this, some people don't. But I did hear this from a developer. It will definitely be able to build the Bengal, but here's a little bit of unknown information for some of you. The Bengal will not be the only giant ship it can build. CIG does plan on eventually there being other Bengal size ships that it can build. Okay, maybe that's the Pegasus. Maybe it's those Bengal carriers that we've seen or Bengal destroyers that we've seen in Squadron. It all but guarantees that we'll be able to build Javelins, Krakens, Idrises, obviously. But from what I was told, there's going to be other ships Bengal size that we'll be able to build, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys. Thoughts on the space station stuff?
I'm very excited about the space stations. I was not expecting it. Grim, you kind of gave me a heads up, and you were like, "Hey, just a heads up. The draw's gonna be on the floor." You didn't tell me why,
Yeah, I was
but
like,
I think
they
even if
went
you'd have
hard.
told me, I still would have been jaw to the floor.
Yeah.
100%. There's no way. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so awesome what they showed here. The work that will go into this it's going to be real good.
Yeah.
It's gonna be real good.
It just, there was no part of this that did not blow me away and almost
all.
left me kind of speechless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, by the way, everyone, you can see the supply module, or is it supply module? I think it's, or supply bay. It's called the supply bay.
Yeah.
This is the thing that the Pioneer can build. This is what builds the space station. So there's kind of two steps to the process there. Once you build the space station, from the space station's bridge is there where you build all these space station expansions, by the way. But the supply bay here is the first part of the build. And when you do build your space station, the supply bay gets integrated into the space station, so it becomes part of the space station. And yeah, Feathers, exactly right. It's listed as being in gray box already. That was a big shocker. VM, did that surprise you that a lot of the space station stuff was in gray box?
Yeah, actually. So, how far along in gray box? We'll see when they start teasing more.
It looks pretty good.
But we've already seen some great stuff. So yeah.
I mean, I was surprised at how good it looked. I honestly, if you told me beforehand, hey, they're gonna reveal space stations and all this other shit, I would expected all concept art. You know what I mean? I mean, we saw a lot of stuff. I mean, they not only, for all the space station components, they were taking the camera inside and everything. Now, they were pretty clean. You could tell they're pretty simple environments at this stage, but I saw a lot of unique geometry in here too. Yeah. I saw quite a bit unique geometry in here.
Yep.
So pretty shocking. Pretty shocking. I think where we're going with this, though, ultimately is if you're bought in. Fastcart says, will station assets be available in Fleet Viewer? It is something me and VM have talked about a few times and ruminated on how cool that would be. I think if it can be done, we will do it. If it can't be done, we'll wish it could be done. I don't know.
We shall see.
It probably depends a lot on how CIG packages them up, how they exist. VM can tell you that, and he can speak on it way better than I can, obviously, that the way CIG puts their files together is complex and hard to corral. Is that the best way to say it, VM?
There's a lot of there's a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces.
Yep.
And I just want to add to, I think, one comment in chat saying the art is the easy part. That's debatable.
Yeah. That's
debatable.
It's debatable.
If you're in the art, the dev work is the easy part. If you're a dev, yeah, the art's the easy part.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say to kind of wrap this up. Is if you watch the Star Citizen 1.0 thing and you said to yourself, I like what I'm seeing, right? If you said to yourself, this is cool. I want to play this game. This vision they're showing, this is a game I want to play, right? That is, then I would say the future is bright for Star Citizen, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you looked at the Star Citizen 1.0 vision, because it does, and the reason I say the future looks bright is because it looks like CIG is plowing full force into this new thing. Okay.
100%.
I mean, they're obviously pushing hard on this stuff if they're in gray box and a lot of this stuff. On the other hand, if you're one of those players who the 1.0 vision did not appeal to you, or it's not, or maybe it didn't, it's not that it didn't appeal to you, but maybe it was just different than what you were expecting, and you really haven't kind of come to terms with it yet. You haven't had enough time to think on it, right? I would just say, be patient, see how CIG unfolds this. I can already guarantee you that some of those 1.0 plans are going to change over the course of the next year or 2 years. They just are.
Yeah.
As CIG gets further into development of 1.0 plan, there's going to be parts of it that adjust and change. That's game development. Any game developer will tell you that. So be patient. See how it starts to feel its way out. Offer constructive criticism on Spectrum if there's something you're very passionate about. If you're just saying that I don't like the vision, it's stupid, they're probably not going to respond to that. If you just, I'm telling you right now, from the developers I've talked to, they actually do read Spectrum. And they may not reply to it. As a matter of fact, they probably shouldn't if you've seen what happened to John today. But they do read it. And if you make it constructive, it's and enough people do, it'll be considered. I mean, it's just the what it is. I mean, they're not trying to make a game that none of the backers want to play. They're trying to make a game that we do want to play. So just be constructive, be patient. Let's see where this goes. Let's give it a chance. Okay. They finally gave us a vision. Let's give them the chance to see it through and see what becomes of it. Right? All right. That being said, we're going to wrap it up tonight. We've been streaming for a while. I want to thank my awesome co-host, STARJUMP Ender, my longtime buddy, and my new good buddy, VMXEO, for hanging out tonight. Everyone in chat for hanging out. Thank you for the follows and the resubscribes and all that stuff. I really, really, really appreciate it. Ender, you want to scope out someone for us to raid, my good friend?
Got somebody already, if you're okay with me picking a rando.
Yes, sir. I am okay with picking a rando. Everyone, I'm going to steal a line from Ender and say, do a good deed for somebody. Do something out there in the world to bring a little positivity to others. It doesn't take much effort, and that stuff can be contagious. So definitely try to do that. Thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. Obviously, it was an exciting CitizenCon. I'll go ahead and tell you all now, too, you can expect good coverage of IAE this year from the STARJUMP folks. I'm sure we're going to get into it. It's obviously a lot about spaceships, so we're going to be talking all about it. So with that being said, everyone, have a great night. Ender, let's kick off the raid. Thank you, sir.
You guys enjoy.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
All right.